What is happening out there, Roto Scouts baseball fans? Good to see you guys. Welcome to a Monday show. Starting out the week ugly, I'd say. I was going to say strong. Strong almost came out of my mouth, but I really can't say that about this slate. It is a solid little 8-gamer, but we've got the Dodgers at Coors Field to contend with. We've got like one good pitcher on the slate, or a couple of good pitchers, but a couple guys in bad spots. Nothing overly reliable. Some shaky-looking options at ridiculous prices. It's going to be a fun one to talk through. Hopefully your weeks are off to a good start. Let me make sure I muted the phone. I just picked it up to look at it without actually making sure it was muted like I intended to do. There we go. And it's charging. Perfect. Andy's here, beyond the rabbit holes here. What's going on, guys? Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. So hopefully Monday hasn't been too bad out there. A lot going on in the world, but hopefully your little corner of it is doing all right. Kind of straighten out the brim of my hat there. One of my bigger concerns on the day. There we go. Yeah, hopefully whatever your office is, or your vacation at the end of the summer, getting the kids ready for back to school, whatever you're out there doing, hopefully it's going well. Check out the website as you walk in the door. I'm sure the 5 people that are here watching so far are already familiar. But if you're not currently subscribed, if you're looking to come back beginning of football season and the baseball season down here in the dog days of summer, if you just want to take a little discount on your next upcoming weekly renewal, $5 weekly plans through the end of August with promo code 5ME. I actually think there needs to have a space in that. I meant to check that. I think if it's showing the promo code without a space in it, actually needs the space in it because I'm dumb. Oh, no. Actually, I'm right. It's correct there. So take advantage of that if you want. We'll probably also kick something off for, I think I just gave away the promo code. We'll probably have something for the beginning of football season as well. Maybe I'll do something on the monthlies for the first month of football season. Promo code kickoff probably is what's going to be used, as I just hinted at. So we'll get to that, but that's not up and running yet. We're just rounding out the summer here. Okay, Woodhouse is here, Dell22. That was the other thing I wanted to mention. Yeah, thanks, Dell. The weather. There are multiple entries on the weather report on an 8-game slate. That's never ideal. Why the hell is this over there? It's supposed to be over there. Everything needs... Do you guys have, like... I'm not this way in life, but on the computer screen, especially, like, when I'm doing the show, I always have, like... I need to have the windows, like, where they're supposed to be. Otherwise, like, I'm all over the place more so. And the daily notes that I put together were just not. But that's where the weather lives and the game logs. And that's why I'm looking over here. So, yeah, to start with that, Chicago and Atlanta. Roth has green, yellow, a lot of rain in the area, probably dealing with more of like a pop-up situation where something unexpected actually lands on the ballpark and screws things up, but it seems like we're okay. He has basically the same take for the Kansas City game, the Rangers at KC. He's saying his exact quote is maybe 5% coverage of rain in the area, maybe less, likely dry, warm, and humid. Winds blowing out. Seems fine, but not a lot of wind, so I wouldn't chase that necessarily. Milwaukee and Chicago game 2 is looking pretty ugly. He's got that as yellow-orange, and then he's got a 5 to 10 mile an hour wind blowing out in Coors Field for the Dodgers, who are going to be at Coors Field for 4 games this week, so that's going to be a giant pain in the ass. 7.38 implied total today. Obviously, that's a monster spot on our Vegas board. But as we get into it, it's going to be, again, really ugly pitching day. We've got an uncomfortably priced Trevor Rogers starting things out in Fenway Park against that Red Sox team that's been very, very frisky in the splits this year. Don't love that spot, but very playable. He's been mostly excellent, but also overpitching his actual performance. On the Red Sox side of things is Dustin May. Got out to 6 innings, had a nice start the last time out. 8 strikeouts, 5 clean innings, 5 hits against Houston. Capable of replicating that, maybe finding a little bit more against the Orioles. But we saw that Orioles team go off just yesterday. I could see them coming up with some runs in Fenway as well here. Just kind of mid-board totals, though. 392 implied for the Orioles, 417 on the Red Sox side. That White Sox and Braves game is very interesting. The Braves are at the highest non-Coors total of the day. They're going up against a target kind of a pitcher in Joandres Gomez. He went 5 the last time out. He did strike out 7 against the Tigers, so a noteworthy performance there. Faced 20 hitters over 5 innings, just 1 earned run allowed, 7 strikeouts and a walk. So obviously that was tremendous. But I think we're more looking at some Braves bats against If we need to get into some cheap pitching options, though, maybe that's one we talk about. And then zombie Spencer Strider on the mound, bizarro Spencer Strider on the mound. I feel like he went away and we got the warped-looking version back. And I don't know. Not great. It's the White Sox, fortunately, so it's a nice little bump from the opponent, of course. Only 4 innings the last time out. Got smoked for 8 runs by the Mets. That was one where we were very cautious about our Strider use. Struck out 2, walked 2, gave up 3 home runs. I think the power against the ability for people to actually make solid contact against him this year is a little bit more daunting than it's ever been in the past. It's standing out quite a bit. 5 home runs in his last 2 starts. The one before that against Milwaukee, he gave up 11 hits, 5 earned runs, 2 home runs. Struck out 6 in that one at least, so he clawed some of it back, but not a great performance for the prices we've been paying. He's a little bit priced down today for him, especially for the matchup against the White Sox. So maybe a little bit interesting there at least. Jack Leiter on the bump for the Rangers. Going into KC again, maybe a little bit of concern around the warm weather and everything. Probably shouldn't be an issue with the rain. Royals pulling a 4.77 implied total against Leiter, showing a lot of upside in projections. Solid mid-board as far as the power upside goes as well. So I think KC is definitely in play today again as a stack. And then if you were using the projections yesterday, you should have come up with a lot of Rangers. I sure got to a lot of them. We were talking about them in the Discord for that Sunday afternoon slate. And they went off in a big way. They're looking not as explosive today, but definitely usable. They're still very fairly priced. 4.34 implied total against Michael Wacha. Seems like a playable spot. Wacha can be very good, of course. Decent run limiter. He's been on a very solid stretch. Pitching into the 6th inning, not necessarily completing it, but he completed it twice and got 8 and had an 8-inning start over this stretch of his last 6 starts. Over those 6 starts, he's allowed 2 earned runs in each of his last 2, and in the 4 prior to that, he had allowed only exactly 1 earned run. So very solid stretch of run limitation. Not that there's anything predictive about that whatsoever. It's a good enough Texas team that I think you can both sides that across multiple lineups. Chad Patrick from Milwaukee, just going up against a really tough Cubs team. I don't love that spot. They're pulling a 4.75 implied total. Seems fairly straightforward to roster some Cubs bats. Patrick's not bad. He hasn't been bad throughout the course of the season. A couple rough spots along the way, but a solid mid-rotation type pitcher. It's just a Cubs team that we don't necessarily want to attack. He's usable, but not a priority. I would say pretty similar things about Jamison Taillon on the other side. Less depth overall in his average start. Not the biggest strikeout pitcher, just going up against a Brewers team that's just been rolling through the season. Doesn't seem like a spot we want to attack that much. 4.36 implied total for them. The home run pick of the day comes from the Brewers. Dodgers at Coors Field. 7.38 implied total. It's the Dodgers at Coors Field. They're going up against Kyle Freeland. Fire away. Freeland every now and then can break off a decent start. When he faced the Cards here the other day on the 12th, he went 7 1/3, 5 hits allowed, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks. The Dodgers have obviously been scuffling their way through the second half, so there's downside for them, of course. There's maybe sneaky dart throw caliber upside, but do we really want to tangle with that in this spot? It seems like there are easier ways to get contrarian. And then we have Yoshi Yamamoto, projecting out as one of the more usable pitchers, keeping the Rockies to a 4.29 or 4.30 implied total is something. We've seen them over, their entire last series. They were above 5 every day. Dodgers not all that dissimilar from where the Diamondbacks were coming down in the lower mid 7s. But Yamamoto has the Rockies checked down to a notable low implied total. He's very, very good. He's good at checking power. He's got the right attributes to win and win big in that park and put up a good score. I think he's very usable, but I don't know that it takes the Rockies off the board quite as much as that total might suggest. The Reds and the Angels, and unfortunately, fairly high priority Brady Singer on the bump today. Never reliable, sometimes capable. Does break off big scores from time to time. Had a 10 strikeout game. Shut out the Braves over 6 innings, 4 hits allowed. Walked 1, 3 starts back. Decent 6-inning start, struck out 6. No runs on 3 hits against the Phils. His last start. In between those two, the most desirable of those matchups, he was at Pittsburgh. 3 2/3, 4 earned runs, 2 strikeouts, 4 walks, and a home run allowed. That's a Brady Singer kind of a roller coaster up and down. You definitely can use him against the high-powered but high strikeout Angels. but there's some definite visible downside with the power in that lineup. 4.72 implied total speaks to that. And then it's Victor Mederos, who I definitely think we can fire away with some Reds bats against Victor. He went 4 in his last start, his first full start of the season. Faced 17 hitters, 3 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, but 3 walks, a home run allowed. In the minors, he had made 19 starts in AAA, pitched to a 3.41 ERA as a 24-year-old, so right on track age-wise, but only a, 19% strikeout rate, and his xFIP for those AAA starts was 5.44, which is pretty aggressively high. So I definitely think more a target than a usable option. Robbie Ray on the bump for the Giants going up against that low strikeout, high-quality Padres team. Low total overall, 7.5 runs. Not exactly exploding off the page. More of it coming down on the Padres side. I agree with that. Robbie Ray is a pitcher that can go bust. As we saw in his last game, he gave up 4 earned runs on 7 hits, struck out 4, walked 1, allowed a homer. When he goes wrong, it's usually around the walks and then a little bit of power allowed. That one wasn't a meltdown, but obviously it burnt you that for DFS that day. That was against this same Padres team. Not to say that that's going to happen because that was the case the last time out, but a similar 3-4 run day is absolutely in the cards, and there is a little downside for more. But if Robbie Ray's on, he's one of the best in baseball at finding strikeouts and piling up some fantasy points. So on this board, he's definitely in play. Nestor Cortez going the other way for the Pods against a gettable enough Giants team that's not showing a ton of upside. 3.51 implied total. I don't fully trust Nestor here either. For one, we're probably going to look at a short outing again. Just 4 2/3 in each of his 2 starts since returning. 2 earned runs in the first one, 1 earned run in the second one. Struck out 3, walked 3 in the first one, struck out 6 in the second one. It was against the Diamondbacks and the Giants. So again, another spot where he gets that same matchup. Maybe find some Ks, but maybe they come through. Some of those 6 hits turn into a few more runs along the way. Maybe he loses a walk and creates an extra opportunity along the way. He's an up and down kind of a pitcher who gets by more on guile than on stuff. So I don't love that spot, but he's very much in play as well. Low total for his opponent. Then we round things out in the desert with a 4.24 implied total for the Guardians facing Zach Gallen. An always gettable starter, but another guy who is going to be in play just because it's a fairly short pitching slate, and he does have the ability to spike that upside against a gettable enough Guardians team with some strikeout in it. 4.24 implied total for them. Coming back the other way, Gav Williams on the bump for the Guardians facing the D-backs. That's a diminished but still good with a couple of stars up at the top lineup now. They're pulling a 4.35 implied total that sits kind of in the middle of the board. I do think they're usable against Gav, but when he's on, he is very, very good. One of the better young starters in baseball. Had a run of a very solid starts through basically all of July, and then maybe hit the wall in his last one. It was against Miami. They've been frisky. 3 innings, 4 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, a walk, allowed 2 home runs, 5 hits. Not ideal. That was coming off 8 2/3 against the Mets, where he was no hitting them, if memory serves. Give up 1 hit, 1 earned run, home run, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts. So maybe mid-board type fantasy outside of the 8 2/3 of extreme effectiveness. 6 innings in 2 straight prior to that, a 7-inning start. It's been very, very, and 11 strikeouts in that 7-inning start against the A's. So more than capable of getting that Diamondbacks team. I slightly lean toward offense, but we need the pitchers in that last one. We'll talk these guys through again. And then again. Monty saying, fitting that Action Jack is pitching on the same day as Singer. If only Jose Barrios and Yusei Kikuchi could join this schizo slate. Yeah, seriously. But that was why the Rangers were on the board, and we were all over them yesterday. They faced Jose Barrios. Always a target. This camera's bothering me. It's at like a slightly weird angle. There we go. Hit the like, hit the subscribe as we dive into the to the pitching board. So Strider, there's very little that I can do about this without just doing something stupid and being like, he's going to pitch 3.5 innings. And I don't want to do that to the projection. I did knock it down. It was the natural projection here would still have been into the 40s FanDuel, like 22 DraftKings points. And I did cut it via the mechanisms that I have that aren't like totally artificial. And I think it's right. I think that's still the correct spot to have Spencer Strider. We've seen the upside in the stuff. We've seen the swinging strikes. As improved as that White Sox lineup may be, they went from terrible, worst team in baseball, one of the worst teams of the last 20 years, to occasionally adequate. It's not like that's a good opponent now. So we have to be there with Strider. I've seen him lower projected around the industry, and I disagree with it. 9,300 on FanDuel especially, that's stupid cheap for the matchup. Just need him to find form. He's getting the innings. He's getting the opportunity. Just need him to find form. It's going to be a roller coaster coming back until middle of next year probably. Hopefully we get a few shots like this where he is discounted by 1,000 on FanDuel. 10K on DraftKings, I get it. Most expensive starter on the slate. There's kind of holding firm with that. But I still think very, very much in play. Top target on my pitching board. What else are we going to? A good as he can be, Robbie Ray at peak form was never, ever Spencer Strider at peak form. Robbie Ray right now is basically like Spencer Strider right now. That's what you've always gotten from Robbie Ray. Monster strikeout upside, too many walks, too much premium contact, too much power allowed. That sounds exactly like the flaws that Spencer Strider is currently going through. The struggles. So if we're considering them same, I'll take the matchup against the White Sox rather than the matchup against the Padres. Now, obviously, ownership's going to factor in. We got to deal with that and everything. But just looking at the two starters and the spots, and then the other guy at the top of the board is Yoshi at Coors Field. I don't think that's going to be a secret. He's very expensive. Yeah, he's got that Rockies team checked down, but it is still Coors Field. We've seen the best of them get burnt by that ballpark. That Rockies team is better than people give it credit for. A mid-fours implied total, while being low for Coors Field, is still not nothing when you're paying 10-3, 9-4 for the starter. He comes with visible downside. He's still in the 2 spot. Left the projection right where it was supposed to be. But a lot of downside. At worst, those 3 guys, the same up and down nature, right? There's as much risk with any one of the top 3 starters there. And then we get to Brady Singer. Total roller coaster of a starter. Not as good as the top 3 guys there, but certainly as talented as anybody below him on the board. Good matchup as far as strikeout upside. Bad matchup as far as power and allowing premium contact. Don't love it. Definitely in play at 8,000 on the DraftKings slate. I mean, that's aggressively cheap. Same thing on FanDuel at 92. But if I could pay 100 more, if I can take a one-off or something and get 100 more, $100 and go to Spencer Strider against the White Sox, I think I'm probably going to lean that way. The thing is, though, I'm sure a lot of the field is still going to lean that way, even with Strider struggles. So that's when I really think on FanDuel especially, it really is going to boil down a lot to just what the ownership situation looks like as we get to lock between Singer and Strider. But the upside, the projection, I mean, is separated by 9 points of projection. It speaks for itself. The DraftKings price just puts it on a different tier. I think it matters less. It's less of a conversation. Singer's just a go-to mid-board type price with upside. Trevor Rogers is 10-5 on FanDuel. That is bonkers to me. 9,000 on DraftKings is fine, playable, still expensive. But 10-5 on FanDuel against the Red Sox in Fenway is kind of bananas. Yeah, he's been really good at limiting runs this year. He's giving you solid depth. 7 innings last time out, 6 innings to start before that, 8 innings, 7 innings going back. He's gone into the 7th inning in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of his last 7 starts. So again, tremendous depth. I gave him a 7-inning projection today, though, to get him to 28 points. That's higher than his season average as a median. So I'm giving him credit for the pitching that he's done. He is too high priced on FanDuel. That price is going to break against a Red Sox team that is very capable of getting to him. Dustin May in the next spot is the much more appealing pitcher in Fenway tonight. Much better matchup going up against the Orioles. 8,500, 6,900, fire away with shares of Dustin May. Given the 6 innings the last time out, typically the only thing I'm really concerned with that pitcher is what his depth is going to look like. And since we don't have a rock solid option outside of maybe overpriced Trevor Rogers on the other side, who I just said I'm not all that happy about, there's not a ton of depth of start on this slate. So I worry less about if he comes out after 5 and change, or if he only gives me 6 and there's no 7th inning potential. Big time strikeout potential. There is some downside from the Orioles when they're on form. Hit the ball very hard. They're an interesting enough team. But May, more than capable of breaking them. 5 hits last time out, 8 strikeouts. You could get that game again today. Excellent opportunity at the price. Jameson Taillon, again, I'm more interested in the bats in that one, but you can see they're right next to each other on the board. They're both at usable enough prices. 75 for Taillon on the DraftKings slate, bumpy as he might be, pretty much in play. The 88-87 for Chad Patrick, I disagree with a little bit more. And then we're already kind of diminishing in some of these spots. Nestor at 65 is usable, not safe in any way, unlikely to pitch deep into that ball game, even if things are going well. But he's very cheap. I do like Gav at 87-85, but it's a very challenging opponent. Gav, opponent-wise, I think is kind of in the same boat as like taking Robbie Ray against the Padres, taking Trevor Rogers for a much higher price against the Red Sox. So if you're willing to gamble on that at that giant price, I think you should probably consider some shares of Gav against Arizona at a much lower price and upgrade some bats. Waka, just a mid-board starter, is who he is, kind of a spot for him. Similar is who he is, kind of a spot for Zach Gallen as well. I would say between those two and between most of the guys down board, Gallen probably does give you the biggest upside just individually, just on talent when right. It's just we haven't seen a lot of good Zach Gallen this year. Gettable enough Cleveland team. Lighters in play, but that situation in KC is creating a pretty big total on the KC side. He's been a little bit up and down. He's definitely given up some premium contact this year that I think the Royals can exploit. They're just low strikeout. So I do think he's knocked down a peg. But kind of like what I said about Gav, if you're considering Gav against the Diamondbacks, you could save a couple of bucks. You are sacrificing some median projection there and drop down to Jack Leiter. And then Medeiros, Jonas Gomez, and Kyle Freeland, pretty dicey. Freeland, I will say, 4,500 on the DraftKings slate. You can see it's a absolute nothing garbage, basically unusable, mediocre hitter projection. But again, the hell is it? Last time he pitched in this ballpark, 7 1/3 against St. Louis, 5 hits, only 2 strikeouts and 2 walks, but for 4,500, that's kind of on the board. Medeiros, Gomez, we'll talk about as we get through those games. Those are cheap prices for those guys. So in a way, as bad as a lot of these options are, it is a slate where like all 16 of those options are at least worthy of discussion given the shape of the slate. Quiet in chat so far today. Bunch of people here hanging out. Hello, welcome. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, the free Discord. Don't have to be a subscriber at the website or anything like that to come join the community. Free Discord is linked in the description, as are all the different pieces of content for this slate, including these game-by-game breakdowns available at rotoscouts.com. I was going to say the at rotoscouts, like you would say it for the Twitter handle, which is the Twitter handle. But available at rotoscouts, you can get access to exactly what we're looking at here in static form, but all the stats, all the projections as a screenshot, these exact screens that we go through on the shows so that you can follow along live, so that you can go through, do your own research, pick out different plays yourself. You get everything that you see on the screen here for each game, in addition to the projections, the home run model number for every single player, the pitcher projections, top stacks board, power index, home run picks, all that content, plus upcoming football content. NHL right behind that, NBA right behind that. All for under $1 a day, the same under $1 a day, not $1 here, $1 there, $1 there. Everything, one subscription, one price, gets you behind the paywall. You have access to anything that hits that website. Follow the at Rotoscouts Twitter handle too. Could use some more followers on that. Baltimore Orioles at 392 implied total going up against Dustin May, who comes in at a very affordable 69 on DraftKings, 85 on FanDuel. Very much in play. Pitched to a 22% strikeout rate over 113 innings in his 20 starts this year. 4.67 ERA, but he's better than that. A 4.27 xFIP, for example. Just an 8.5% swinging strike rate, but when that stuff's working, when he's finding that horizontal movement, he can find better swinging strike numbers than that and punch out his fair share of hitters. Does give up some premium contact, something to be wary of against a Baltimore team that can find premium contact pretty regularly. So it's not the best of collisions and factors there, but he's capable of getting through. 3.23% home run rate kind of jibes with those numbers. Missing barrels. If he was in the double-digit barrel range, we'd be talking about how this is a pretty lucky number. We're only a few well-struck fly balls short of that. So, bear in mind, there is contact available here. I think it does put the Orioles on the board a little bit. I would say that total feels a little low. I feel like they should be, 4+. I'm not saying it's crazy low, but something akin to the 4.17 that the Red Sox are at on the other side, I think would be fair. Trevor Rogers, 22.9% strikeouts against 5.7% walks. Sparkling little ratio. That said, not exactly special. I would argue that 22.9% strikeout doesn't necessarily fully capitalize on an 11.7% swinging strike rate. Stuff Plus doesn't really love the full arsenal at just 93.48. That's several points below average. He's been using it to effectively miss barrels, but not necessarily effectively miss premium contact. Right? Go with me on this. 6.5% barrels is great. But a 13.9 degree average launch, you are putting the ball in the air. 48.9% hard hit is aggressively high. This is just 0.3 of a mile an hour short of our exit velo threshold. Now, a lot of guys fall into that range and do perfectly fine. But this, 0.76% home runs allowed so far on that kind of contact, I'm not buying it. Not as an ongoing number. He's gotten through. He's done well with it. That is part of a 1.43 ERA, but a 3.62 xFIP. That's more than 2.2 runs higher on the xFIP number. So, yeah, a lot of swinging strikes. Decent strikeout pitcher, doesn't allow too many walks, has not allowed too many home runs. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to keep it that low. When we look back in time, 2.49% home runs over 124.1 innings last year, or 124 and a third innings, had just a 17.3% strikeout against a 10% walk rate just last season. 4.92 ERA and a 1.58 whip, 4.70 xFIP under the surface. Didn't really have swinging strike. So, having a good season. Do I want to pay 10.5 for him against a Red Sox team where the active roster has a 111 WRC plus against left-handed pitching this season? 175 collective ISO? Not particularly. 9,000, 10.5? Yeah, he's in play. Yeah, you can go there. But fairly low faith for me. I don't love that spot, and I don't love that spot at that, especially at that FanDuel price. Red Sox 4.17 total. You've got some very solid right-handed bats. You've got a lot of barrels and hard hits right here. Got Fenway Park on your side. Jackson Holiday at the top of the Orioles lineup at 43.28. Very affordable. Kid's having a decent season. 94 WRC plus, a 141 ISO. Obviously, there's work to be done here. But he's made strides. I pointed out the other day the monster improvement in his strikeout rate year over year. Getting rid of that problem will help just in and of itself. 249, 303, 390 over 498 plate appearances. Not ideal, but 15 home runs, 11 stolen bases for what we care about. Those counting stats right there. Productive enough for DFS, especially at second base for a cheap price. Jordan Westburg at 45.31. Solid power bat, 8.22 in the home run model today. He's got an 11% barrel, 44% hard hit. Again, we are matching him up against a pitcher who allows some premium contact. 8.22 in the home run model, eligible at second and third base for only 31 on FanDuel. A little bit affordable on both sides, I would say. 15 homers on the board in just 303 plate appearances. Slipped under a 200 ISO, but 199, close enough. 123 WRC plus. Gunner slots in at a 124 that leads it. is second to the 125 over 40 plate appearances of Jeremiah Jackson now. Gunnar, the qualified leader on this team at 124 WRC plus. Another guy who's just put up a strong season as far as the counting stats in the middle of the line there. 67 runs, 16 stolen bases with 14 homers. He drives in runs when he gets the opportunity. It's just a good overall category filler. 279, 350, 460 overall on this last line. A 181 ISO is a little bit down performance-wise. He had a 248 ISO last year, hit 37 home runs. So we're not getting the power output. We're getting a little bit of diminishment in the average, a significant diminishment in the on-base percentage, and it cuts into the WRC plus overall. So a dip overall for sure this year for Gunnar. You can see it in his barrel rate at 8.7%. He's lost 2.5 points of barrel, but still very, very good. And I'd say priced a little further down than he should be. 4,900, 3,400 against a righty who gives up a little bit of power. Ryan Mountcastle at 29.28, a fair option. Just 4 home runs, a 120 ISO. The power has never really fully returned from Mountcastle, despite consistently making very, very good contact. Back up to a 12% barrel rate in his quarter of a season so far this year, 46.4% hard hits. Doesn't jibe with that or that, but that's just the situation for this hitter. It's kind of weird. Doesn't find the results for the quality with which he strikes the baseball. Colton Cowser, on the other hand, definitely capable of cashing in. 10.6% barrel, 44.7% hard hit so far this season. 9 home runs in just 220 plate appearances, down to a 183 ISO. Last year, he hit 24 homers, had a 204 ISO over 561 plate appearances. Very solid lefty power option. Does strike out quite a bit, though, 31.8%. And top end of this Red Sox lineup, that's a 24.4% strikeout average. So there are Ks on deck for Dustin May here if he can find them. Sammy Basallo, monster power hitter. This kid's going to be dangerous. Catcher on both sides, 3,000, 2,300 across sites. He's really cheap. Come on. There he is. Sammy is just 21, so it might take a minute to actually arrive. He was rolling for power down in AAA this year, though. 321 plate appearances, 23 home runs, had a 319 ISO. This is as a 20-year-old catcher. Kid is an absolute monster. 19 home runs across 532 plate appearances from AA to AAA as a 19-year-old last year. Stole 10 bases, 278, 341, 449, 116 WRC plus. Big buyer on Sammy Basallo if we're going to the Orioles at all. If you're playing a one-off catcher spot at 3,000 on DraftKings, that's really interesting. If you're just looking for a cheap one-off first base catcher option on FanDuel at 2,300, it's not uninteresting. But again, might take a sec for the kid to actually catch up to full-fledged major league pitching. Off to an okay start over 5 plate appearances, though. Drove in 2. Jeremiah Jackson's been hitting the ball hard in his 40 plate appearances. Some success in there. We'll see where it goes. A 125 WRC plus for him. In his 360 plate appearances in across AA and AAA this year, as a 25-year-old, 15 home runs, 11 stolen bases, 313, 343, 537 with a 135 WRC plus. So again, another kid who's been effective in the minors. 25 is right on track. Interesting enough bat over 40 plate appearances to give him some shots. Dylan Beavers at the dead min on DraftKings, cheap on FanDuel. In his 418 plate appearances this year in AAA as a 23-year-old, another guy right on time. 18 home runs, 23 stolen bases, a 211 ISO, striking out just 18.2%, walking 16.3%, slashing 304, 425, 15. Solid 152 WRC plus down there. Another cheap lefty down lineup for this team. Over 10 plate appearances in the show so far. It hasn't really arrived. We'll see if it does. But it's interesting if you're going to Orioles. And then Dylan Carlson hiding in the 9 spot at 2,500. 6 homers, 3 steals this year in a pretty bad 182 plate appearances. Mix and match caliber outfielder, if that. Let me pull up the splits board here real quick. We want active roster. The Red Sox active roster this season has a 111 WRC plus against left-handed pitching, as you have on the screen there, with that 175 ISO. They've hit 35 home runs in just 1,119 plate appearances in the split. They've been very solid overall. As we get into the individuals, where the hell is he? Weird. Their active roster on Graphs is not caught up to Nate Eaton for some reason. He's on the full roster, but he didn't come up in the active roster number. Anyway, for the season, Eaton 278, 333, 389 against lefties. It's actually striking out a little bit, as in 21 plate appearances. So obviously we're not giving that much credit, but over the course of the career, which is only a couple of years, just 73 plate appearances against lefties. 246, 292, 385 with a 138 ISO, 84 WRC plus. So they're starting off the lineup with a mix and match caliber option at third base on DraftKings, outfield on FanDuel, but at least it's a really cheap entry point and direct correlation into the hitters that you really want from this lineup. So not a dead spot up top, I would say, but maybe one of the more vulnerable guys, especially if he's going to be up there flailing as far as the strikeouts. Roman Anthony, over his 74 plate appearances so far against lefties, holding his own except for some strikeouts, 36.5% strikeout rate, but a 10.8% walk, 273, 351, 439, creating runs 18% better than average. 3 of his home runs have come against left-handed pitching. So plenty of upside in the 2 spot for Roman Anthony, despite the same-handed matchup. 2.5 his home runs so far. Monster barrels and hard hits overall out of him. If we chase Trevor Rogers and get into the Orioles bullpen, so much the better. Kid's cheap, 4,800, 3,000 for the talent, 134 WRC plus so far. He's been tremendous. Alex Bregman, love the upside for power for him. Somebody in this lineup is going to be capable of exploiting some of the downside that's underlying here for contact for Trevor Rogers. Alex Bregman is a name that's very high up that list. Very low strikeout, high walk rate, 8.6% barrel, 46.7% hard hit on the season, 16 homers and 336 plate appearances. It's been phenomenal. Against lefties this year, 360, 478, 480, a 170 WRC plus. He's lacked power output in a weird way, just a 120 ISO. 2 of his home runs, but that's obviously a spectacular line as far as correlated scoring, keeping the lineup moving, creating runs. That is perfectly fine, even for the high price. And we know there's power there. Romy Gonzalez, 354, 404, 667 with a 313 ISO, 6 home runs in 109 plate appearances against lefties so far this season, 187 WRC plus. Skip Romy Gonzalez at your own risk if you're stacking Red Sox. 15.4% barrel, 58.3% hard hit overall. Romy just hits everybody hard, but he excels against left-handed pitching. First and second base eligible for a $4,500 price tag on DraftKings. You have to reach a little bit for him over there, but $2,800 on FanDuel, very cheap, well worth it on either site. Trevor Story at 47-31, tremendous season so far. When we're talking about counting stats, another guy, I know we're still below average for WRC plus, and I've talked about that. It's mostly off the walk rate. Everything we care about really for fantasy is here. 19 homers, 22 stolen bases. Just a 165 ISO, just a 304 XWOB. But again, I'm not fooling myself as far as some of the underlying numbers. This does indicate that, 258, 302 part of this line is very real. That has not stopped him from creating those counting stats for us. He hits the ball extremely hard. Needs to draw more walks against that strikeout rate, like he did last year. Forgot what that sample size is. Jarren Duran at 5,000 at 3,300. He has scuffled against lefties this season. Just 210, 256, 340, a 59 WRC plus. So if we're looking for a soft spot, lefty-lefty, it is Jarren Duran here. I do still think he's playable if you're building a bunch of Red Sox lineups. But if you're only building one, maybe we're skipping a little bit of Duran. He will be lower owned today than normal, though, because of that. So bear that in mind as you think it through. Ceddanne Rafaela, Carlos Narvaez, 2 hard-hitting righties to round things out down toward the bottom 4,000, 2,800 for Sedan. Pretty solid. 14 home runs, 18 stolen bases. He's slipped below average for WRC plus as well overall, but doing the same thing he did last year, just consistently creating counting stats, and he's hitting the ball a lot harder than he did last year. Super interesting player. 9.1% barrel, 43.5% hard hit out of Carlos Narvaez. It's up to 10 home runs and 346 plate appearances. Another solid catcher bat. Abraham Toro at the bottom at 28-25, mix and match quality player, occasionally capable of producing some fantasy scoring. Don't love that option at first. If you're using him 25 at second base on FanDuel, seems like the right spot, but very low priority bat. But a lot of what I was just going through there, and the reason I wanted to highlight some of those splits is, again, just the idea of Trevor Rogers at these prices against all that in Fenway Park with Vegas kind of going against it. I don't love Trevor Rogers here. To that point, Red Sox, Dustin May, Trevor Rogers, Orioles. I think this is a very much a four corners game, though. What's up, Tall to God? Good to see you, bud. All right, so the White Sox against right-handed pitching this season, the active roster slashing 233, 308, 370 collectively 10 points below average for WRC plus, a 137 ISO. Stolen a bunch of bases. I'll give him credit for that. It's not a good lineup, much as they've been improved by the addition of Colson Montgomery. A little bit of return to form for Lubob and his excellence against lefties that's come through overall. Kyle Teal hasn't been bad. Lennon Sosa's standing on his head this year. He's been the best version of himself, but he's not a star. He's a mediocre player. He used to be just a sneaky guy who hit the ball hard for us for DFS. Now he's their cleanup bat. Are we really suggesting that Spencer Strider's going to have a problem with this team? I love the price down on him on the FanDuel slate. Let's see if we got an ownership number on him. And happy to pay the price tag for him on DraftKings. It's still Spencer Strider in there. I know he's gone through some bumps. Drawing his popularity. People on FanDuel are taking advantage. 20% range. Not surprising. I honestly think he should be more aggressively owned than that, though. And comfortable on DraftKings, too. It's high, but it's lower than it ought to be. If you hadn't had some bumpy starts in the last few, he would be so much higher owned in this spot. Last time out, 4 innings, gave up 8, 3 home runs allowed. Start before that was against the Mets. Start before that, 4 2/3, gave up 5 runs, 2 home runs allowed. Struck out 6 in that one. That was against the Brewers. Start before that one, 5 innings, 2 earned runs, struck out just 3, walked 2, but that was against Kansas City. They're super low strikeout against everybody. Scratch out a bunch of hits. 7 strikeout day, but walked 3, gave up 2 home runs. Only allowed 3 runs on 5 total hits. That was against the Giants. Good day against the Yankees over 6. He struck out 8, no runs, 3 hits. 6 2/3 against the Athletics, a hard-hitting team. He did give up a home run, 3 earned runs on 5 hits, but struck out 11 that day. He has an 11 strikeout game in the ledger this year, a 13 strikeout game in the ledger this year. The 13 was against the Rockies, but overall, it's still a 26.9% strikeout rate. 4.69 ERA, sure. Not where we're used to seeing Spencer Strider. 9.4% walk is too much. The 10.4% barrel, 42.9% hard hit, 91.8 miles an hour of exit velo are all over the threshold. 4+% home runs is entirely real on those numbers. But those numbers are not Spencer Strider. And if we find form against one of the worst teams still in baseball, very, very significant option. 14.2% swinging strike rate, as if to make the point. This team, 22.4% strikeout rate on average. That's including the 13-9, the 16-4, the 17 there. We've got some significant strikeout targets that don't really capitalize on a ton of walk. Some of these guys hit the ball hard, some not so much. I think it's a really good matchup for Strider. He should be more owned than he is, but he is very popular. Joinders Gomez on the other side, 18.9% strikeouts, 13.2% walks in his 22 2/3, giving up a lot of premium contact, just a 2.83% home run rate, but he's probably lucky to be there. Limited by stuff plus, 5.56 ERA against a 5.87 xFIP is not at all appealing. He's going up against the Braves team that is one of the top options on the board at a 5 implied total. As I mentioned at the run-up of the show, though, just last week against the Tigers, 5 very clean innings, 1 earned run on 1 hit over 20 batters, struck out 7 and walked 1. In AAA this season, 11 starts, 14 appearances, a 2.12 ERA with a 3.78 xFIP, 32% strikeouts against, is that this year? Yeah, 32% strikeouts. Chill, dude. A lot of strikeouts, also a lot of walks, a lot of visible downside, but 5,500, if we're considering darts on the DraftKings slate, I promise to at least talk about it, and he's there. If you're considering Kyle Freeland, you got to at least throw this guy into the mix, considering he does have strikeout stuff. There are strikeouts throughout this Braves lineup. They've been underperforming dramatically pretty much all season. But they did get Acuna back. They've got Matty Olson. Marcelo Ozuna is playing better. Michael Harris has returned to life. So it's a super high danger spot. Nobody's actually saying go play Joinders Gomez. It's just maybe there's a little bit of a blip on the life support system. White Sox bats, if you're choosing to target Spencer Strider, I still think it's a little misguided here, but definitely you've been cashing that ticket a little bit lately. It's still the White Sox, but if I'm going there, Mike Tauchman at the top of the lineup for very cheap pricing, you are targeting a large section of the field that will have Spencer Strider on the mound. So they're in play, for contrarian shares. I would start off with Tauchman because of how he gets on base and sets the table for everybody else. A 365 season long on base percentage that is very much just who Mike Tauchman is. 12.5% walks this year, 13.4 last year, 14% the year before. He gets involved in other ways from time to time. He does have 8 home runs. He hits the ball squarely, but not overly effectively. But a very interesting player from the top spot for 32.29, a little bit more than just another outfielder. And it's how he connects to the other hitters in this lineup. Miguel Vargas in the 2 spot, playable, but also entirely skippable. 3,100 at first base isn't overly appealing. 29 on FanDuel, at least you get to move him around the board a little bit. 5.17 in the home run model. He's hit 13 this year, a 165 ISO. Medium contact. There's nothing special going on with Miguel Vargas. Low strikeout, I'll give him that much, but I think Spencer Strider can probably get him. Colson Montgomery at 43.32. Pretty cheap for a kid who's got 10 home runs and 141 plate appearances. Monster barrel rate, pretty decent hard hit rate. That's my number 2 priority, probably. If I'm starting here, bolt that on. Obviously, we're getting some Lubob in there. And then probably Landon Sosa and pick your poison. But Montgomery, top priority option. 279 ISO, 113 WRC plus, showing monster ability to capitalize on contact like the contact that Strider's allowing, but he's allowing non-Strider-like contact. And Montgomery, good as he's been, starting out at a 29.1% rate in the show so far, 225, 286, 504. That's the downside. Could be victimized by Spencer Strider a couple times. Could also get him. Landon Sosa, again, mediocre player, but a 10.3% barrel, 43.7% hard hit, having the season of his life at 273, 302, 444, 16 home runs on the board, a 105 WRC plus. Very much in play, but just kind of sitting there like, waving at everybody now rather than kind of being a sneaky secret. Love the positioning at second base, still cheap though. Benintendi has squared the ball up nicely this year, 14 home runs and 371 plate appearances, a 181 ISO. Nothing else to like about him though, and I wouldn't say you're paying a tax, but he's not exactly cheap at 35.29 for what his quality is. It's fairly low strikeout, but again, it's Spencer Strider. I just don't ever really like going to Andrew Benintendi. And against what I'm looking for Strider today, I don't know. It's a rough option. Cheap Lubob is always in play. 12 home runs, 31 stolen bases, just a 134 ISO this year and 81 WRC plus. He hasn't been good, and most of the good has come against lefties, not righties. So there's a lot of downside there, but if you're going to the White Sox, you're not leaving their best player out. And yes, he's still their best player. Kyle Teal at 37 at 26 in play, 250, 348, 346. He's gotten on base a lot. Not really cashing in on pretty solid premium contact at 9.2% barrel. There are a lot of strikeouts there, but also some walk. Maybe he's one of the guys that capitalizes on the walk rate. Chase Meteroff, a high contact frequency option, but not a lot of output so far at 251, 331, 320. Just a little correlated scoring, getting him on base. Maybe a stolen base bonus and a run scored, but pretty limited from the bottom. And then Brooks Baldwin, nothing really to speak of, 81 WRC plus. Gets really thin down toward the bottom of this lineup, or the entire second half of this lineup. The Braves at a 503. We know that we don't love Jurickson Profar, but we're taking the option because he's getting on base at a 350 clip. He's hit 7 home runs in 203 plate appearances. He's low strikeout, high walk. I get it. I understand why we go there. I don't have to like it. 3,900 is very cheap on DraftKings for a player who leads directly into Matt Olson, Ronald Acuna, and who's getting on base that frequently, who's been creating runs 20% better than average. There's just so much apparent meh about that player. Matty Olson at 5,000 at 3,400, stuck on 19 home runs for a minute now, 186 ISO. Big time dip in overall production from Olson this season, but it hasn't really been because of lack of premium contact. Barrels are up year over year. They're down a little bit still from 2023. At one point, he was chasing that 16. Hard hits right in line with the 2023 number. So are his strikeout rate, his walk rate, just not finding the success. Hitting the ball in the wrong part of the park, not quite getting it where it needs to be, but still a lot there. Acuna is a superstar. He's one of the best players in baseball. You just play him if you're unfamiliar. 55-41, a little bit inexpensive, honestly, for your Ronald Acuna against Yoendrys Gomez. Love the upside there. 260 ISO, 174 WRC plus in his limited action this year. Just got to hope he stays healthy. Drake Baldwin, monster option at catcher for 4,000 today from the left side, going up against this limited pitcher. Opportunity to absolutely crush. 13 home runs in 307 plate appearances, 183 ISO so far this season. You got a 187 ISO, over 474 chances out of Marcell Ozuna now. 20 home runs, still getting on base at a tremendous clip, drawing a monster walk rate this year at 16.7%. He made up for some of his underperformance in the power areas by doing other things out there, and now the power's back a little bit, so love the upside for Ozuna. Just 38 at 33 on FanDuel, differently priced, but very easy to get to any combination of those top-end Braves bats. Michael Harris has been one of the best players in baseball for the last month or so. I would say that DraftKings hasn't really noticed at 35. FanDuel kind of did at 33. Just update the numbers that we've already looked at. We'll just use the All-Star break as an easy point. Since the break, so coming back on July 18th, that's exactly a month ago. 378, 393, 697 slash line. A 201 WRC plus, so 101% better than average by WRC plus. A 319 ISO. 8 home runs, 3 triples. He scored 20 times. He's driven in 20. He's only stolen two bases, if you want to quibble with anything. 8 doubles over that stretch. He struck out just 15.6% of the time, walked 2.5% over 122 plate appearances. He's just been giving you an outrageous frequency of contact. 93.6 mile an hour average exit velocity over that stretch. What else can I throw at you? A 461 WOBA. Not ex-WOBA, WOBA, the actual number. He's been on a tear, and it's a good player returning to form. He's never been that good for an extended stretch, but he is very, very good. Still very cheap on DraftKings. It's not a secret. People are aware of this, except for the guy making the pricing at DraftKings. But you take advantage of that spot if you're going Braves. Ozzie Albies, 38-29, has not turned that corner. 10 home runs, 11 stolen bases, 226, 298, 328 overall, 77 WRC plus. Mix and match quality player, I would say, at second base at this point. Nacho Alvarez at 23-24 hasn't shown us much in the show yet, but does have a little bit of hit tool in play for the cheap pricing. Not ideal at third base, more of an option where you can move them around the board. That said, the least desirable out of their top 8 hitters. And Nick Allen, as always, here for defense. Spencer Strider, Braves bats, White Sox bats, and then just garbage Yoendrys Gomez darts. Again, just because of the fact that we just saw it, so he is capable of it, just because of the fact that there are strikeouts there at the minor league level in a big way, he's not off the board. Yeah, Monty points out Joker liked Gomez at his price when I was talking about he came walking in and barked. If you like the Joker plays, I think that might have been it. No actual recommendation here, right? That's me talking it through, not saying go get that guy and put him in your lineup. Very important distinction. Let's see if we got the Rangers lineup yet. Doesn't look like. Let me reload labs. Maybe it came through and didn't populate. They've been so funky lately. The thing they're doing this year that I really don't like, and I'm guilty of it too, because a lot of the times I'll put the download CSV in there and then update the timestamp and update that static page. And then within 2 seconds, I have to upload the table separately. So I get it. But it drives me nuts. They've been changing it to confirm lineup and going from red to green before they actually change the lineup. So there have been a couple of instances where I've grabbed it and then been like, wait, that's not the confirm lineup. And it's a big pain in the ass. Anyway, still, that page is free, and the guys over at Fantasy Labs do pretty good work with it. Can't complain too much about a free product. The Rangers with Jack Leiter on the mound, 72-82, 21.1% strikeout, but it comes with an ugly 11.9% walk rate, 3.94 ERA, but an ugly 4.96 xFIP. A very solid 2.64% home run rate, 2.64% home runs. But look at the contact that comes on. How lucky has he been? 11.7% barrel on an 18.2 degree average launch, 43.7% hard hit, 90.6 mile an hour of exit velo average. We're dramatically, alarmingly above our thresholds in every one of those categories. Could be a little bit more power, honestly, in play for the Royals than what's showing here. What's showing here is impacted by the actual to a degree. It's also, the underlying is in play there as well. His actual number would probably have these quite a bit lower. So there's a little fight going on in the home run model around the Royals, and it kind of puts everybody mid. But I think there's major power upside on the wrong day for Jack Leiter, right day for the Royals, and that's coming through 4.77 implied total, one of the higher marks on the board. Leiter's playable at 72. He's playable at 82, but it's a low strikeout Royals team on the other side. He's pitched just, that 21.1% strikeout rate is fine, but it's not special. 5 innings last time out, just 3 strikeouts. Start before that, only 3 strikeouts. Walked 4 in that one. That was over 3 1/3 against the Yanks. Ended up giving up just 1 earned run, 2 runs total on 3 hits because it's the Yankees and they can't capitalize on anything. But not a good start by any means. The 5-inning start was against the Diamondbacks. He only gave up 1 earned run on 4 hits, but again, a low strikeout game. Kind of got through more than excelled. 4 1/3 against Seattle. Another one where he was all right in ways. Only 2 earned runs on 3 hits, struck out 7 and walked 3, but only got through 4 1/3, rang a pretty high pitch count. 6 innings in the 2 starts prior to that one, though, 7 strikeouts in both. So a solid little run of 7 strikeout games across 3 and a 6 strikeout game to start that run. He can find moderate effectiveness. Seems like when he limits runs, he's doing a lot of dancing to get there, though. Like, again, that Yankees game in particular, 3 1/3, had 4 guys on base via the walk, only struck out 3, somehow managed to get through only 3 hits and 1 earned run in his 3 1/3. Just so much luck involved there. That's why this is quite a bit higher than that. Does have a great rating by Stuff Plus. Kid is talented, no doubt about it. When he's on, he can be very, very good. But this Royals team is really not going to give him that opportunity all that frequently. If you roll this 100 times, the times where he comes away with 7, 8 strikeouts in this game are pretty few and far between. Going back the other way, Michael Wacha, 82, 88, inoffensively priced. It's Michael Wacha. We know him pretty well. 3.35 ERA, 4.48 xFIP looks about right. 18-ish% strikeout rate against a nothing walk rate. Excels at keeping inducing weak and medium contact. 32.7% hard hit, 87.1 miles an hour of exit velo. You can see how much lower that is than the average pitcher. Just a 2.13% home run rate. That's entirely believable. Just not a high strikeout guy, and you're kind of paying mid-board prices for him. You are getting a Rangers team that strikes out at a 21.5% clip across this projected lineup. A couple problematic strikeout guys, but a couple very realistic low strikeout guys in there as well. Middle of the board pitcher on a middle of the board kind of a day. Josh Smith at the top of the Rangers, 3,800, 2,800 across multiple positions on both sites. Having another Josh Smith kind of a year, as I keep on saying. 108 WRC plus. Doesn't do anything particularly well, but does everything, all right, and is an effective guy wherever you have him in the lineup and pretty much wherever you have him on the diamond. As far as DFS, He's capable, but relies a lot on production from his teammates as far as finding the actual success. Comes a lot via the on-base ability and some correlated scoring. So we need the Wyatt Langfords, the Corey Seagers, the Jocks of the world to start coming through a little bit. They obviously did in a big way yesterday. Marcus Semien was a big part of that yesterday. He's up to 15 home runs and 11 stolen bases. We'll see where he lands in the lineup. This projected has him 6. I wouldn't be stunned if he climbs by a spot or 2. Not a good year for Semien, but he's rescued the season overall. He's at a 88 WRC plus to evidence that, but he's climbed up to a 325 xWOB under the surface. He's done some interesting things for us for counting stats, and he's still very, very cheap at second base, going up against a gettable high contact pitcher. In between Semien and Smith at the top of the lineup, we get better options. Wyatt Langford at 39, 3,000 has 17 home runs, 16 stolen bases, a solid 108 WRC plus, and is better than that overall. There's a better player that's going to emerge from the shell of what we see with Wyatt Langford right now. 13.3% barrel, 46.9% hard hit. Kid has cross-the-board ability. 4,600, 3,200 for Corey Seager's gotten a little cheap. 18 home runs for him, a 206 ISO, 127 WRC plus. Kind of like Gunnar, still finding a lot of success, but a little bit diminished from expectations. But still creating a 15.4% barrel rate in his batted ball events, 52.6% hard hits. One of the better star caliber players on this slate. Jock is quietly hitting the ball at least somewhat hard. 8% barrels, 43.2% hard hits. The barrels are down in the small sample compared to years past. There's always been swing and miss in Jock's game, but he's at 20.9% strikeouts against a 13.3% walk rate in the small sample. So technically he's cut strikeout a little bit while pushing walk up a little bit, just resulting in a 277 on base. He's got 4 home runs on the board and then a 121 ISO. Not much of that sounds like Jock Peterson, but he's very cheap. He has a history of mashing mediocre righties. He's going to be in play through the rest of the season. Just got to hope that old Jock emerges for a game or two here. 4,200, 2,900 for Evan Carter's interesting. 333 on base, a solid run creator to 108 WRC plus. Another guy who's better than his performance. Low strikeout this year. He's cut strikeout down to 19.6%, down from 26.5 last year. Kind of noteworthy. Keeping walks solidly in the middle. He's a good line drive bat. Interesting option, over 204 plate appearances. I'm curious to see where it goes. That said, 42 for him versus 24 for Jock versus 35 for Marcus Semien. I don't love where they have him priced. Same price as Semien on FanDuel. 25 for Jock is a little bit cheaper. Kind of comes down to how the lineup falls. Same thing with Rowdy Tellez. If he's in the lineup, I love the upside for power there. If you were following along, Salvi Perez scratched. Oops. That sucks. R. Jones saying Zach Gallen going to strike out 11 Guardians today. Break the slate. That would be fun. Cleveland playing bad this weekend and heading west where they absolutely suck balls. Don't get carried away about this weekend. That doesn't mean anything. Heading west also, I wouldn't really worry too much about. But yeah, just mediocre to bad lineup facing a guy who can spike good games. We'll talk about it when we get there. But yeah, the whatever happened this weekend, it doesn't have any overall impact. That caught my attention. I was just going to look at something. Well, we'll take Sal out of the lineup. We can start there. Did they update yet? No. Labs hasn't updated that yet. Let's see what Underdog's got. Maybe they got the Rangers too. Oh, so that's what I was talking about. Bryce Miller's back on Tuesday. Nice. That's awesome. I'm a big Bryce Miller fan. All right, so Sal's out of the lineup. You get the new one in here. But what I was talking about was kind of similar situation yesterday. Rowdy Tellez was the home run pick of the day. Then he scratched from the lineup, or then he wasn't in the lineup, and Jock Peterson was, so I switched it to Jock, and then Jock scratched yesterday, and Rowdy went into the lineup and did not hit our home run, but became the home run pick of the day again. Why am I typing this into the wrong spot? That's what happens when I'm telling an anecdote about yesterday and not focused on what the hell I'm actually doing. This is what I wanted. And it was already there. I'm so dumb. All I need to do. Yeah, it's Bobby, Vinny, Michael. Is it just Jonathan? No, there's India there. Wait. I screwed that up. Rave goes there, and it's... There we go. That was way too much effort to get to Luke Maley. So Sal out of the lineup, definite downgrade for the Royals. That was the home run pick from this team. I don't love that change, but the top end of this lineup is still excellent. Low strikeout, a lot of run creation ability up there, but a little bit more gettability through the back end now. You'll see that, you do have this stretch of everybody here in the teens as far as strikeout. And again, Leiter, despite some good stuff and despite a good swinging strike rate, not exactly coming away with a ton of reliable punch outs. But taking one of their best power bats, their best power bat out of the heart of the lineup does have a pretty significant impact there. Malley in no way replaces Sal. 24 okay plate appearances, got a home run on the board at 200 ISO. He's made okay contact. Doesn't really align with previous performance. Pretty high strikeout option. Kyle Isbell, kind of a nothing threat at the bottom of the lineup. He doesn't really strike out all that much. Doesn't draw walks either. Just makes a lot of pretty bad contact and has an 84 WRC plus for the season. 257 xWOBA too. He's not even as good as he looks. John Rave strikes out quite a bit, but also draws a little bit of walk. Hits the ball okay, 6.7% barrel, 42.7% hard hit. Nothing special there, and not really providing anything special in the results side. Just an 86 WRC plus, 4 homers, 7 steals. That's 3 relatively flat options down toward the bottom. If you're building Royal stacks, any one of those guys in any given stack, perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with it, especially at the cheap pricing. Maley at 2,000 on FanDuel, you don't necessarily need the catcher spot over there, but playable at the dead min. India not really having a great year. 8 home runs, 324 on base, but not really in the I need to get on base part of the lineup now. So, I don't know. With the changes, I maybe am going to try to slide him more up this way, even with some of his underperformance. Maybe you would have brought Yaz back down, find some power back in the middle of the lineup, and just take India as the same kind of option in the leadoff spot. But that's not what they did. I don't love taking a correlated scoring option or mostly correlated scoring option from the heart of the lineup when he hits ahead of John Rave, Luke Maley, Kyle Isbell. That's not an ideal spot. You need the power side, honestly, to come through with Jonathan India today. 331 xWOB under the surface. He has hit 8 home runs, medium contact. He's just been better in years past. Last year, 15 homers, 13 steals, 17-14 the year before that. He's back down toward this guy. If you get 2023 or 2024 Jonathan India for a night, you're in business. Adam Frazier in the next spot, another guy, kind of just correlated scoring option. Now I have to put 2 of those guys together. I can't do it on DraftKings at 32, at 34 at second base. On FanDuel, all these guys play the same positions. So fantastic. I can flex my way to the same spots with everybody. It's good. It's fine, but these 2 guys are essentially exactly the same. Michael Garcia is offset talent-wise by a wide margin over those 2 guys, but he's priced that way. It's difficult to say you want Frazier all that much. This is a decent average, okay on base, 92 WRC plus, and underperforming xWOBA. Doesn't give us any hope for continued performance. Not a power bat. So now I'm dealing with 2 guys that are correlated. So he's going to get on base and he's going to get on base, and then these guys are all going to fail. That's gotten really weak just by taking Sal out of there. Michael Garcia is tremendous. 11 homers, 22 stolen bases, a 362 on base this year. Created runs 27% better than average. Again, you want to live in these top 4 spots, but that's what anybody who goes to the Royals is going to do now. Vinny at 46 at 31, 22 home runs on the board. We're big Vinny Pascantino boosters on this show, as you guys are well aware. 9% barrels, 43.5% hard hits. It's down to 16.1% strikeouts. He's just been pushing that down since that bad start. 12.8 last year, 7.2% walk rate. That is an exact match for this year's production. I'll be interested to see if he can get that strikeout rate down under 13%. I don't think we have enough time, but who knows? Bobby Witt, monster premium contact option, 17 home runs, 32 stolen bases, 293, 48, 493. It's Bobby Witt. You don't overthink these things. And then Yaz in the leadoff spot at 39 at 29. Capable guy, can get on base, can set the table for the other guys, a little bit of individual production. He's hit 11 home runs from the left side. A solid option to throw at Jack Leiter, but in no way a star, just a spot filler. I would say he's quite a bit better than John Rave, Luke Maile, and Kyle Isbell, but he's more along the lines of Adam Frazier and Jonathan India than he is the other three guys. So you're really dealing with a 3 good player lineup and then a lot of filler with the Royals now. Curious what the impact of that. It's got to be on Pinnacle by now. Not really much of an impact. Still 9 runs. Yeah. Oh, wait. It's this one. That was the difference. That's all you amount to, Sal Perez. So not much of an impact there. More of an impact, I would say, DFS-wise than in that Vegas line. Oh, if you're wondering why no numbers changed, it's because I didn't actually move the runs from over here to over here. This one's gotten difficult to rank now. It was originally Royals with a bullet. I would bring that back. Solid 4 corners option. Everything's in play. Still Royals, I guess. Yeah, I can't say it's Waka. I can't say it's... I could go Rangers. Where do they rank on the stacks board? This is so inconsequential, but it's important to me to get it right. Texas right in the middle of the stacks board, but monster value numbers, second on the home run board. I'm going to do it. I'm going Texas. Rangers bats, Royals bats, Michael Wacha, Jack Leiter. Among the pitching spots, though, there is an argument to be made that the $7,200 DraftKings option for Jack Leiter is the best out of the 4 pitching spots, just because of the offset price and the diminished Royals lineup. But it's a really, again, it's going to be a really challenging spot for him to find form, even with, or find a good fantasy day, even with Sal out of the lineup. Yeah, swoosh, that was the confirmation. So we'll get that cleaned up on the site after the show. Also try and pick up the pace a little bit here. I've been wandering my way through these lineups. 8 gamer, we can take a little time though. Chad Patrick, Jamison Taillon. What a pitching matchup. Taillon checking in with a 4.44 ERA, 4.31 xFIP over his 17 starts, 95 and a third, a lot of mediocrity. 19.1% strikeout, 5 2/3. Just clocked when I got the pop-up that Sal's my Dynasty League catcher, and that sucks that he's not going to play today. What was the word? Is he hurt or just like sick or what? Right after I said we're going to pick up the pace, I'm taking a total detour to check the note on a player from the last game. Sal. Okay, he's just sick. Get well soon, Salvi. We love you. All right. So yeah, Taillon, a lot of shorter outings, a lot of mediocrity. 4 2/3 last time out, 4 innings to start before that with 8 runs scored, 4 innings to start before that with 5 runs scored. The 4 2/3 was against Houston. He only allowed 2 earned runs, but gave up 9 hits, struck out 4, walked 1. 6 1/3 against Pittsburgh prior to that stretch was pretty good, but it's the Pirates, one of the most targetable teams in baseball. Did have a decent stretch through Oh, and that was all the way back to June. Forgot about that. There's been a gap here. Completely overlooked that. In his 3 starts in AAA in August, 3 innings, 4 2/3, did get out to 5 1/3 against Boston's affiliate. So the pitch count should be fine. It's just we're throwing him into this Brewers team that's just been chewing everybody up, creating tons of runs. It's a downside pitcher. You know, last year, just 18.5% strikeout. Didn't really walk anybody at 4.9%. That's when you find form with Tyon, he can be a good run limiter, but still doesn't really ring up big strikeout totals for the most part. 21.4% 2 years ago, 18.5% last year, 20.7% the year before that. So it's really limiting on fantasy scoring. At 75, 85, especially at 85, that's a bad price. At 75, he's a dart. Chad Patrick at 87, at 88, comes in with a 23.8% strikeout rate, 3.52 ERA with a 4.10 xFIP. Some quality there. Decent rating by Stuff Plus. He has allowed some premium contact here. This is a significant fly ball trajectory. A lot of hard hits and exit velo, so we're over the threshold in both of those. Not quite in barrels. He's gotten a little bit lucky that some of those fly balls haven't been the most well-struck balls. So that's keeping the home runs down at 2.50% so far, but that's probably a pretty lucky number. This is a Cubbies team that can absolutely capitalize on that. They're coming in at a 4.75 implied total. So Patrick's in no way safe, but I think there's a little bit of playability there at least. I mean, there has to be. It's just the pricing not ideal. You know, DraftKings should probably be more like 77, maybe 8,000 somewhere around there. FanDuel 82, something like that. So I feel like it's a few $100 too expensive on both sides. Puts too many guys on base via that whip, 1.30. That's against a not terrible walk rate. So there's some BABIP there. Yeah, batting average on balls in play against this year is 318. Sierra is 401 versus that 410 xFIP. Same, essentially. Again, I don't love targeting the Cubbies here, but I wouldn't call you crazy for playing some Chad Patrick shares. He has some strikeout ability, and the Cubs are in the middle of the sport, I would say, as far as strikeout goes. Some targetable mid-20s types in here, but super, super high danger. Neither of these lineups are in. Oh, you've got weather in this one as well, it looks like. Were they on the... Yeah, that's right. This is game 2 of the doubleheader too. So we probably won't have these lineups during this show. Maybe we'll get them at the very end. But there's a lot of weather moving in for this second game. Roth has it yellow-orange, or had it yellow-orange. He says it's going to depend on the timing, but it's probably more of a in-game delay. Looks like it's a debate between whether it's going to show up in like the 6th, 7th inning or just after the game. But it seems like it is going to rain in Chicago at some point. So bear that in mind. So assuming something like this lineup for the Brewers, obviously they've been just rolling. Sal Frelick creating runs like crazy with a 118 WRC plus on the season. 18 stolen bases, gets on at a 356 clip, an ideal way to kick off that lineup. I don't love the idea of Joey Ortiz in the 2 spot. Did they do that recently? How did he get up there? Have they been rolling that lineup out? I didn't notice over the last few days. No, he had 8th yesterday. That was against the lefty. Yeah, he did hit 2nd on, was it Saturday? Hit 2nd against a righty on Saturday. I think they're just using that same lineup. Joey Ortiz is a mix and match option. He is a little bit improved if he's in the 2 spot. He's low strikeout, medium walk, low end contact, and only gets on at a 283 clip overall, has a 287 xWOBA under the surface. So there's not a lot of identifiers there that you would say like, wow, that's a really appealing 2-hitter. It's entirely misguided, honestly, to put him in the 2 spot. But if he's up there, it makes him more playable at cheap pricing for DFS. William Contreras at 54 at 33, 13 home runs on the season, a 361 on base percentage, 117 WRC plus. Guy's just been rolling. He is very, very good, very high walk, low strikeout, just not finding the power like he used to, but 13 homers is fine. Andrew Vaughn has been on fire since joining the Brewers. He's hit 14 home runs on the season at 185 ISO against monster premium contact. I know we've done this a bunch, but I'm just excited about Andrew Vaughn's return to life here, especially because I picked him up for a 1-year keeper option on the Dynasty League. Dynasty League's been sleeping lately. If you guys are out there, gotta wake up. Hurston Waldrep free of charge in a Fab League. I used up all my Fab already. I'm just using waiver claims against people who have existing Fab dollars. And I picked up Hurston Waldrep this week in a Dynasty League where you could keep him for $1 next year. Nobody even bid. I also added Bob Seymour this week. Love that guy. Might not hit a home run, might strike out at a 75% rate and go back down to the minors. I just love the fact that his name's Bob Seymour. He's been getting a lot of attention. This is the first Bob in baseball in 15 years. That's bananas. Unless you count Lou Bob, which I do. He's also, there were in his debut game I was reading, and I sent this to our group chat because my buddy Dan Seymour, a lot of people just call him Seymour. There had not been a Seymour in Major League Baseball at all in like 111 years. And now all of a sudden there's 3. Baseball's wild. So anyway, Andrew Vaughn, since joining the Milwaukee Brewers, 9 home runs, a 283 ISO, striking out just 14% of the time, walking 9.3% of the time, creating runs 76% better than average via WRC plus, slashing 327, 391, 611. Kid has been an absolute beast, and that is him. Again, it won't be to those extremes forever, but it's a very good player cashing in on who he's supposed to be on his pedigree, just in a better situation now. Rising tide effect, whatever you want to make of it, it's very real. Andrew Vaughn is this talented. I mean, again, not to these extremes, but you understand. Isaac Collins at 41, 3,000, having a great little year. 288, 384, 448, getting on base like crazy. Probably should consider him up in the leadoff spot or in that 2 spot where they've got Joey Ortiz or in this projected. 137 WRC plus on the season. Just an on-base correlated scoring machine. There are fair strikeouts there, 22.1%, but he draws a 12.1% walk against it. Doesn't really hit the ball particularly hard, but finds some success for power. Gets on base, hits for average. What's not to like? Caleb Durbin at 36 at 28. I still don't love the positioning at FanDuel at third base on DraftKings, but he's had a productive season. 100 on the nose for WRC plus, getting on at a 333 clip, 10 stolen bases. More of a just mix and match quality guy, but very cheap. If you're getting to the Brewers, it's easy enough to build with basically any of these options. As good as they've been for run scoring and everything all season, they don't stand out in a lot of ways. For power, they do steal bases, but they don't pop for DFS scoring a lot of the time until we actually play the game. And it keeps everybody very affordable on this team. Bryce Terang at 44 at 3,000 has 21 stolen bases. He's getting on at a 344 clip. He's hit 12 home runs, made much better contact. Look at the jump in contact in this year's sample from 2.9, 26%, 2.4, 29.4% to 7.1, 45.3. He's tripled his barrel rate. He's basically doubled the hard hit rate. And that's not an insignificant sample. We're closing in on 500 plate appearances of that now. Tremendous strides by Bryce Terang. He's sacrificed a little bit of strikeout to get there, but that is a changed bat. Still very affordable on FanDuel at 3,000, 44 on DraftKings, one of the more expensive Brewers. But again, everybody in that lineup is easy enough to reach. And then Blake Perkins in the last spot, productive enough, over 84 plate appearances, 3 homers, 5 steals, a 123 WRC plus, part of the scoring, part of the fun in Milwaukee. You definitely got there. And then I skipped over the man in the middle, their best overall player that we've loved on this show for years, having a great season, renaissance year, 25 home runs, 15 stolen bases, getting on base at a 345 clip, creating runs 27% better than average, a 200 ISO, 9% barrel, 46.8% hard hit that are just right in line with expectations for what he's done over the last couple of years. The one flaw this year with Yelich, a few more strikeouts than we're used to. But at 9.63 in the home run model, he is your home run pick of the day from the Milwaukee Brewers. On the Cubby side, 475 implied total. We're always going to Cubs on this show. Very much in play. So much power in this lineup. 24 homers up top for Michael Busch. You get 27 apiece in the middle of the lineup for Seiya Suzuki and PCA. Suzuki hit a bit of a slide after his just ridiculous first few months. It's my fault. I traded for him. But still a monster barrel rate overall on the season. Fairly priced for what the quality is on FanDuel at 36. A little discounted at 45 now on DraftKings. That is a generous offering. PCA fully priced on both sites. 27 homers, 30 stolen bases. 126 WRC plus with a 261 ISO. Ian Happ was out of the afternoon lineup, but I would expect him in the evening lineup. Not having the best season, but still 16 home runs, a 104 WRC plus, an excellent 354 xWOB onto the surface. You expect so much more from Ian Happ that you're honestly happy when you find him at 4,000 at 2,900. He's easy enough to reach to fill out a Cub stack, or honestly as a priority bat in one. I would still prioritize Happ. He does a lot as far as filling categories. Nico Moore, a mix and match guy, solid as far as the average, the on-base correlated scoring, a little bit of stolen base bonus. Doesn't hit the ball particularly hard, but also doesn't strike out, only draws a medium walk rate, so a lot of singles and then just scoring opportunities for Nico. Dansby, substandard on base out of Dansby this year at 295 on base, just a 96 WRC plus. There's a little back and forth between those two numbers. Otherwise, as far as counting stats, as far as DFS scoring, 18 home runs, 10 stolen bases, a lot of runs and ribbies, 11.7% barrels and 46.7% hard hits. Dansby's super interesting for only 42, for only 28 at shortstop. Again, going up against Chad Patrick. Not exactly a blow him away kind of a pitcher. Reese McGuire, mix and match your way through shares of him if he's in the lineup, and then Matty Shaw at 34 at 26. Okay option from the bottom. 10 home runs, 15 steals. Gives you the occasional DFS day while not doing anything at a standout level. Sub 20% strikeout. Cubs bats, Brewers bats, pretty close. And then Chad Patrick over Jamison Tyon if you're inclined to play pitchers from this one. Dodgers are at Coors Field. Kyle Freeland costs $4,500 against them. Let's see if we got lineups here. Oh, wait, I'm on the wrong day still. No lineups for these later games yet. Taking their sweet ass time out there. I don't believe we had the Rangers lineup when we went through that game. And I said I would come back because there were some important if-thens in there. And we did get it. So hold on one sec. Oops. Come on. So one of those if-thens, Rowdy Tellez in the cleanup spot. Wedged right between Wyatt Langford, Corey Seager, and Evan Carter, Marcus Semien. Moves Jock down to the 7 spot. I'm really interested in Rowdy because people tend to skip him, even when they're going Rangers. 15.5% barrels, 47.2% hard hits. He's hit 13 home runs and only 237 plate appearances. That is 219 ISO. It's home run or bust. But you know that going in. 8.13 in the home run model against Michael Wacha, who doesn't allow a ton of premium contact and power. But it's not invulnerable to it either. That's an excellent option if you're going Rangers. Carter Semien right where they were, and then Jock probably gets a little bit more sneaky hitting down lineup rather than hitting up here. So I think it makes both guys a little bit appreciably different type options, like getting different by going to them, where Jock would have been more popular in the cleanup spot. Cody Freeman came through a little bit yesterday. So far, 12 pretty mediocre plate appearances. And then Jonah Heim in the lineup definitely gives you a little bit of pop from the catcher spot. 9 home runs in 344 chances, though. Not a great season so far for Jonah Heim, but that's true of most of the Rangers. Back to Coors Field we go. OMG Lulz, what's going on? Check in if you're out there in the chat. Stir things up. Let's get a little bit of, don't stir things up with like stupid bullshit, but baseball-wise, get in there, stir things up. Let's get a little bit of life going on in the chat. Hit the like button out there. Subscribe to the channel if you get the chance as we dive into Coors Fields. Remember, rotoscouts.com. Everything is under $1 a day for access to anything that hits that website, which is very shortly going to include full NFL projections for every single NFL game this season. You can get behind the paywall with promo code 5ME, as you see scrolling across the screen at the bottom there, for a weekly for just $5. Everything is always under $1 a day. That one's just a little kicker to end the summer here. Give you a couple bucks savings on a weekly, get some new people in the door to check things out. We'll have a promo for probably on a monthly to start football season, as I was saying at the beginning of the show. But no time like the present to get over to rotoscouts.com and check things out. Give a little love to our guys over at acemind.io as well if you're looking for optimization and sim products. Very important for football season. Those are right at your fingertips as well. Promo code rotoscouts, all in caps, should still get you 20% off your first month. If you don't get it, just come let me know and we'll get that sorted out for you. Not that I've heard people aren't getting it. I just haven't checked in to make sure that that's still active on their end. Dodgers a 7.38 implied total. The Rockies a 4.30. Rocks very impacted by Yoshi Yamamoto. 2.84 ERA, a 3.11 xFIP, allowing just a 2.15% home run rate that comes on a 7.5 degree average launch angle. That is one of your bigger impacts as far as that Rockies total, as far as what's happening to the Rockies home run numbers. It's just Yamamoto's knack for keeping the ball down. So if you're inducing a lot of ground balls to your infielders, you get through Coors Field pretty effectively. If that takes the shape of, maybe not home runs, but a lot of bloopers that drop in, a lot of, decently struck line drive doubles, that's a different story at Coors Field. So it's not fully guaranteed. But as I said at the beginning of the show, the Rockies were a full run higher in that Diamondback series against obviously some lower end starters. Monty asks, a quick question regarding Four Corners. What percentage of ownership would be too much on pitchers like Rogers to remove him from consideration? That's a trickier one today just because of those prices, because there's an exponential rise in dislikability for a super high priced, overpriced, like middling kind of option like that as he gets more and more popular. Those factors just, ride with one another to, make it to extreme levels to make me not want to go there. If he was at just, a standard price for that spot, that lefty going into Fenway, then I would say you could eat ownership without really worrying about it. It's the price for me more than anything that knocks him down a peg today. Price compounding the problem of going into Fenway, facing that team that's very good against lefties, et cetera, et cetera. My normal answer, my standard answer, without that little wrinkle in it, is that you can take on any kind of ownership weight as long as you're differentiating in other spots, paying attention to the full lineups, ownership product, or depending on what you're looking at, how you go about sorting, what your sim results are for the full lineup. No individual one player, important as pitcher might be on either site, becomes unplayable just because he's popular. A lot of the time, popularity is a very good indicator that you're getting a good option there. And then you got to figure out ways around the field. But there's a lot of argument to be made that sometimes it just pays to be with, a spot like pitcher or a spot like quarterback, a critical value play in basketball, so on and so forth. That one even more extremes. But a lot of times there's a fair argument to be made that lining up with the field there and saying, all right, as soon as this line starts moving, that guy's going to take a step that way and I'll just go around this side and I'll be down the end of this before everybody else. That's kind of the approach that I tend to take on those decisions. And I think you'll see results bear that out a lot. Sims, I think, will push a little bit more differentiation through, and then it evens back out on the results end, if that makes sense. It's a really big overall question, but again, my answer tends to come down more on any individual piece of ownership data doesn't matter all that much. The collective matters a lot. So Yamamoto is gonna, I would assume, be popular, and I won't assume, I'll actually go check. Given how he projects, and not just for me, and the matchup and the total here at Coors, I would expect, and just the lack of super high quality pitching, their ownership's not populated. I would expect he's going to draw the eye. If he gets any kind of popularity on, that's a spot where I think you can flip the script a little bit and maybe consider some of these Rockies bats, because they'll probably be a little bit less on the board for people at that lower total, given the matchup against this pitcher. And it is still Coors Field. Right? It's not all about hitting home runs at Coors Field. It's mostly about the size of the ballpark. Going the other way, Freeland, it's just that $4,500 siren song of a price tag on DraftKings. I don't think you really need to tangle with it at $65 on FanDuel, but it is sitting there staring you in the face. And, as mentioned, every now and again, you can break off an okay enough start, but it's a pitcher with a 5.18 ERA, just a 15.6% strikeout rate, and a lot of premium contact allowed, and maybe not completely showing up in that home run number. It's okay on swinging strike. It's not a good number, but it's not a completely awful number. A little bit of bad luck coming through as well, or a lot of impact of Coors Field is probably the more correct way to say that on the whip at 1.49. A lot of BABIP there because he only walks 5.8%. So that's how you get the occasional upside start from him, even though there's a general lack of strikeout stuff. It's mostly just on innings, not walking anybody and giving away opportunities. And then the batted ball events happen to go to one of his fielders and they get the out rather than that turning into a single followed by 2 doubles and a bunch of runs. 7 1/3, last time out, 5 hits, just 2 strikeouts and 2 walks against St. Louis. That's the exact start I'm talking about. Start before that was on the road, 4 2/3 of 6-run ball, 7 hits allowed, struck out 4 and walked 2, gave up a home run against the Blue Jays. Or excuse me. Oh man, you know what? I'm sorry, guys. I've been screwing that up. That game was at St. Louis, not at Coors. My bad. The Coors game, it was the Toronto game. I had it in reverse for some reason. The at St. Louis should have probably clued me in. The Blue Jays game was at Coors. 2 starts on the road. Prior to that, he gave up runs. Did have a good one against Minnesota at Coors. 6 innings, 4 starts back. 5 hits, 1 run, just 3 strikeouts, 3 walks. Again, that's the kind of start that you're looking for if you play Kyle Freeland. A couple of them have come in home games. He had a decent one against Philly all the way back in May at home, 5 1/3, 6 strikeouts. That was actually one of his better starts of the entire season. So he's capable. Just because I screwed up where that St. Louis game happened, don't think that it changes the scenario. 4,500 would be the talking point there, but it's the Dodgers. 7.38 implied total. I know they haven't been great for the last month or whatever, but I can see the upside for the next 4 days. Shohei Ohtani at 7,000 at 5,200. It becomes a price problem, but he's got it nearly a 20 in the home run model today. 19.55 kind of speaks for itself. 43 homers on the season, 17 stolen bases, a 173 WRC plus. Mookie's been scuffling his way through the year. We run into some problems now again with Mookie at 242, 312, 371, and 9 points below average by WRC plus, not making great contact this year. He just doesn't strike out. He does draw walks, so that combination of factors in Coors can play up. But now we're paying a hefty price tag for Mookie again, where we were getting him at a discount recently. Will Smith at 59, 4,000, another player super expensive, obviously well worth it where you have to play catchers. That's great. By the way, the other day when we had all those catcher options on the board, basically every single one of those guys came through. It was a wild day for catchers on, I want to say that was Friday. Monster premium contact out of Smith, one of the best catcher bats in baseball, full stop, but obviously expensive. Freddie Freeman, one of the best first basemen in baseball, full stop. 135 WRC plus this year, 15 home runs, an ideal scenario for what Freddie does well these days to come through, where it's not necessarily home run power, even though he can still hit them. It's just good, high quality at bats. Love this spot for him. It's kind of obvious. Teoscar Hernandez at 55-36, monster home run hitter. He's got 20 on the season at 216 ISO. Andy Pajes in the next spot is also up to 20 home runs now. 12 stolen bases to boot, 277, 322, 461. Same price on FanDuel, $200 cheaper on DraftKings. You can lean either direction on that one, but take the discount. You're perfectly fine there. It's 2 excellent options. Alex Cole, Alex Freeland rather, and Miguel Rojas down the bottom of the lineup. Mix and match quality options do get a little bit of price offset. 41.32 for Call. Hits lefties fairly well. 261, 362, 367 overall this season. A 109 WRC plus. Very playable, and the outfield is a differentiator, and we do need those here. Freeland at 37.27 against his namesake. 167, 314, 167. Not ideal, but playable. Kid does have some talent. And then Rojas, mix and match quality in any situation, but benefits from course. You got to go want Freddie. I'm tempted to say Will. I've already run that price up too high to get Ohtani in there now, though. I would say Call. Probably Freeland. I'm still almost 5,000, 49.25. If I go Mookie, I'm at 5,080. If you get Shohei, you're at 53.40. It's not ideal, but taking the bottom three, Ohtani, and then whoever from the middle, I have Freddie in there, is the most expensive and to me the most appealing bat. But you could easily go Will Smith for slightly less. That gets you to 48.80. That's the cheapest way you could the purely cheapest way is 47.40 by using the bottom four and Ohtani to get him into a 5-man. So you are paying through the nose for Dodgers today on either side, but obviously ridiculously worthwhile. Tons of ownership there. They're going to be super popular. Going this direction is going to be different. I guarantee you. People are not going to use the Rockies quite as much as they probably should today. Good as Yamamoto can be. D-backs and Angels lineups are in, the rest are not. Tyler Freeman's been interesting off the top. 301, 378, 406. Highly successful player. Went through a little bit of a stretch where he wasn't finding extra base hits, but he just gets on. He sets the table for the not terrible hitters behind him. Doesn't strike out. Draws a fair amount of walks. So we're constantly putting the ball in play or getting to first base. 109 WRC plus. He's got a little individual upside. Some of it comes from stolen base bonus. It's a solid player. Ezekiel Tovar's just 4,000, 3,400. I've talked enough about the dip in strikeout rate so far this year. Monster improvement for him there. Solid slash line or a adequate slash line. Just a 91 WRC plus over 241 chances, 6 home runs, 4 stolen bases. Hasn't found the regular production that he provided when he hit 26 homers last year, but that's a good player at a very cheap 4,000 at shortstop at Coors Field, 3,400 on FanDuel. Hunter Goodman at 52.35, their most expensive player by a wide margin on the DraftKings slate, right in line with everybody else on FanDuel. 25 home runs, very playable catcher bat on DraftKings. Again, Yamamoto is excellent at keeping the ball down, but he's not immune to the effects of Coors Field. He's not a guarantee. He walks 8.6%, so maybe some of these guys can find a little bit of patience at the plate. Not that that's an attribute for this lineup. Only Kyle Karros in a small sample is in double digits as far as walks go. Everybody in this lineup is capable of giving you a strikeout except for Tyler Freeman. But they're just too cheap for Coors. Jordan Beck at 43 at 34, 14 homers, 14 steals, a 109 WRC plus. 18 home runs with a 107 WRC plus for Mickey Moniak. He's only 4,000, 3,300. Lefty bat with a solid amount of thunder in it. Warming Bernabel for 39-33 has had a great 82 plate appearances so far. He's hit 4 home runs already. Has a 253 ISO, 130 WRC plus. Dude's just been good. Nearly took out one of their pitchers yesterday. Did you guys see that? The relief pitcher went back to make a leaping catch, like going into the dirt right by first base. And I assume he just never saw him, didn't expect him to be diving into the equation. Bernabel just trucked him. Dude made the catch, though. Solid price for a kid who's been successful so far going up against, a very, very dangerous pitcher. But he's in play. Kyle Karros at 31-32. Decent 37 plate appearances out of him. He's one of their top prospects. The strikeout and walk numbers so far, I think, are a thing to focus on there. Hasn't barreled the ball yet. But he scored a bunch of runs so far. His created runs 4% better than average so far. Drawn a bunch of walks and not striking out. Brenton Doyle and Ryan Ritter. Very appealing options as far as mixing things up even further. If you get down toward the bottom of the Rockies lineup, you are definitely different on this slate. 37 for a player with Doyle's underlying abilities, 11.9% barrels and 46% hard hits, 11 home runs and 12 stolen bases and 408 plate appearances. Doesn't reflect that contact, nor does the 137 ISO. It's a guy who hit 23 homers and stole 30 bases last year. There's a better player than what we've seen from Brenton Doyle laying in wait here. Ritter hasn't been great, but he's been okay. 73 WRC plus isn't good. The 242 XWOB was completely awful, but he's at least hit 250 over those 124 plate appearances from the 9 spot. There's a lot of strikeout and not that much walk. You're just getting cheap balls in play. At Coors Field, that does have a little bit of playability. Dodgers bats, obviously. Yamamoto, got to do it. Rockies bats. And then DraftKings Kyle Freeland darts if you're feeling crazy frisky. That is just gambling, though. I want to make that perfectly clear. Kyle Freeland is almost certainly going to get destroyed today. So you're just gambling. You're just buying cheap bats there. Will Smith is out. There you go. I hadn't seen the Dodgers lineup yet. Lab still doesn't have it. Ooh, 534. Gotta keep moving. All right, so the Dodgers goes Ohtani, Betts, Teoscar hitting third, Freddie Freeman, Andy Pages hitting 5, Cole, Miguel Rojas, Dalton Rushing doing the catching, hitting 9th today, and then Buddy Kennedy hitting 8th and playing 3rd. The Reds, the Angels. Victor Mederos, 5,000, 5,800 across sites, out to a 5.63 ERA with a 5.87 xFIP, 20% strikeouts and 20% walks. Not a great combination of factors there. In the minor leagues, though, he made 19 starts, pitched to a 3.41 ERA, but a 5.44 xFIP. Had a 19% strikeout rate. So even down there was pretty much a target. I think we fire away with the Reds bats against Victor. He's just cheap, probably not that appealing. You do have strikeout in this Reds lineup. You've also got some guys that are capable of drawing the walk. You've got some power. You got some speed. It's kind of an ideal situation to take Reds bats. 4.87 implied total. On the other side, the 4.72 implied total, I think, speaks to the Angels' upside, speaks to their power. You can see all the home runs that this team has hit so far this year. There's a lot of ISO on this team. There's also a lot of strikeout. So I think Brady Singer at these projections, 92 on FanDuel, feels pretty solid. 8,000 on DraftKings feels like a little bit of a discount. He's a capable, not great pitcher. I would stop probably short of even good. Erratic. Good but erratic. Maybe that's fair. 4.31 ERA with a nearly matching 4.30 xFIP. 22.3% strikeout is solid on a 9.5% strikeout swinging strike rate. 9% walks is too high. Too much premium contact going on. Both of these indicators are over our thresholds. 9.2% barrel is a very high number that's approaching our emergency threshold. Probably a little lucky, especially in his home park, to be at 2.62% home runs. Last year, though, 2.89 on similar kind of contact, fewer barrels, but overall similar kind of numbers. Struck out an identical number. 7.1% walks was a little bit better than the 9%. He had more swinging strike stuff. 3.71 ERA and a 3.62 xFIP in one of his better seasons. 2 years ago looked a lot like this season with fewer strikeouts. 3 years ago was when you wanted him. 3.23 ERA and a 3.30 xFIP that year. 24.2% strikeout rate. So he hasn't really ever found that guy consistently. But for today, on a short slate against a team with a ton of strikeout in it, he's very much on the board. 25.7% strikeout rate for this projected Angels lineup. Let's see if we got the confirm. We do. Still no confirmed Reds that I've seen. So starting on the Reds, still the projected version. TJ Friedl in the top spot, fairly priced now. Down to 3,900 on DraftKings, 31 on FanDuel is reasonable. Gets on at a 367 clip. Dynamite table setter. If we're throwing him up against this pitcher, he's a reasonably competent, high walk lefty bat. So the perfect kind of guy to exploit Victor Mederos right out of the gate here and give Spencer Steer, Ellie De La Cruz, the opportunity to succeed. I almost called him Ellie Del Castillo. So excellent correlated scoring option off the top. He's hit 10 home runs. He's got a little bit of individual ability, but we're really looking to tie him to some other players in the stack with the Reds. Spencer Steer's cheap at 3,800, 38 on DraftKings at 3,000 on FanDuel. 92 WRC plus on the season, but he's up to 15 home runs now, finding the power output a little bit. Ellie, 11.2% barrel rate. Still a fair amount of strikeouts, but he's cut strikeout from 31.3 last year, 33.7 the year before to 25% this year. Push walk up by a tenth of a point year over year. 19 home runs, 31 stolen bases, a 117 WRC plus. He is a step away from being a full-fledged superstar. The numbers are superstar-like. It's very, very strong option, fairly priced at 58 at 39 across sites. Miguel Andujar has been on fire since joining the Reds, if you haven't noticed. Last couple of seasons, he's been more relegated to a decent hit tool kind of a player. We're talking about only 44 plate appearances now, but he's hit 3 home runs since joining the Reds. Slashing 359, 432, 641 with a 194 WRC plus and a 282 ISO over that stretch. He had 2 home runs the day on the 30th, the day before he got traded. So if we're including that, over his last 48 plate appearances, he's hit 5 home runs. If you go back and add another 2 days to that sample, he's hit 6 since July 27th. 389, 441, 796. So does it mean he's a star now? Absolutely not. It's just a guy who puts decent bat on ball and is capable of squaring the ball up, capitalizing on a little bit of additional power output, finding the sweet spot, as they say a few times. 307, 345, 467 over 275 plate appearances, though. That's the quality that we've gotten from Miguel Andujar fairly regularly lately. Solid average, good on base, good run creator. If he's adding power back into the mix at least a little bit, that makes him a much more interesting player. And again, it's not real yet, but it could be. Let's keep in mind, in 2018, he hit 27 home runs as a Yankee. And then he lost his job for 2 years. And then the pandemic. And then he kind of moved around. He hasn't had more than 319 plate appearances that he got last year in Oakland. Since the 606 that he got back in 2018. Never really got a fair shake for a kid who has a pretty good bat and like quite visibly pretty good bat. Gavin Lux at 3,000 at 2,600, cheap, 283, 59, 378. Another guy who just gets on base, good correlated scoring option. Very affordable at second base. You just plug him into the heart of the lineup there and he can operate in either direction. He can help capitalize on the guys above him in the lineup, or he can reset the table for a guy behind him in the lineup to round out a stack. Noelvi Marte at 47 at 32, having a solid year over 208 plate appearances. It's a shame it wasn't a complete season, but 296, 332, 510, a 214 ISO, 9 home runs, 7 stolen bases. Looks like there's actually talent there. 18.8% strikeouts too. Tyler Stevenson, a catcher who hits the ball very hard. 12.2% barrel, 49.4% hard hit. It's turned into 9 home runs, just a 167 ISO. The ability to actually capitalize on the contact is, up and down. He would be a much more highly priced catcher if he capitalized on it a little bit more frequently. 34.4% strikeouts against 11.1% walk. As a ratio, that's fine, but that is a aggressively high strikeout rate when you're not actually hitting as many home runs or delivering as many extra base hits as he ought to based on that. Matt McClain having a bad year, 11 home runs and 16 stolen bases is what we hang our hat on when we go to this play. He's playable, but he's not all that appealing at this point. You're not even really getting that much hard hit or well-struck balls out of him. 27.5% strikeouts. There are some walks there. This is mix and match quality at 4,200 at 2,800. And then Ke'Bryan Hayes never really capitalized on decent ability to hit the ball. He's always hit it hard, but never ever finds results. 4 home runs, a .067 ISO. He's a phenomenal third baseman, though. Zach Neto, the top of the Angels lineup, 51-34, just having a monster year. 21 homers, 21 stolen bases, a 121 WRC plus, a 215 ISO. Very reasonably priced at shortstop, a very appealing player when we're choosing to take Angels. And if Singer's ownership gets out of hand, I'll absolutely use that as a reason to take some Angels upside. I like the power bats on this team. Neto's a big part of that. Shaniel is a cheap option at first base. He gets on 359 on base, a 111 WRC plus. Just a great correlated scoring option who's always cheap. Not a bad way to fill first base, honestly. You get enough production out of him. He's also hit 10 home runs. He can come through from time to time. Mike Trout is Mike Trout. Taylor Ward has his $4,300, $3,400 price tag. He's at 29 home runs to Trout's 20, 255 ISO to Trout's 210. That explains the slight price difference on FanDuel, where correctly Taylor Ward is slightly more expensive. On DraftKings, they're keeping the faith with Trout $200 more. Either direction with those guys, both of those guys, very appealing against Brady Singer and all the premium contact he allows. 14.7% barrel rates for both of those guys. Joel Moncada in the double digits for barrels all season, over 190 plate appearances. He's down to 238, 337, 445, but the combination of good contact and a solid on base, a 207 ISO, keeps him interesting, and he's not offensively priced at third. Joe Adell's down to 3,800, 2,900. That's offensive, but in the other direction. 26 home runs on the board, a 238 ISO, 16.6% barrel, 49.5% hard hit, and we're only going to price him at 38 at 29 on FanDuel. I know he's a roller coaster, but the ceiling, the peak of that roller coaster is extreme. My hope would be you get him at low ownership there because that's a great, great price tag. Christian Moore hasn't really come through, probably undercooked. They aggressively promoted him up to the majors. 2,700, 2,500, over 103 plate appearances. He's slashing 186, 304, 337. Probably just overmatched. His reputation is for having a very, very solid hit tool, being a discerning hitter. You can see a little bit of that in the 13.6% walks that he's drawn, but he's also striking out 29.1%. I just don't think he's ready. I think he will be a good player. That said, he's in the lineup tonight. He's cheap. He fills second base. You can definitely get there if you're going to Angel stacks. Logan O'Hoppe is appealing for catcher power, 18 home runs. Pretty cheap price at 3,400 where you have to play the position. 28 on FanDuel. And then Teodosio in the bottom spot. Mix and match quality. A little bit of average there. Much as he's probably going to be the most popular option and the probable go-to thing from this game, I really hesitate to actually rank Brady Singer at the top. But know that he's kind of there. It's a good projection. He's capable of delivering, but it's a lot of danger. I'm going to say Reds bats, Angels bats, then Brady Singer, and probably don't play Victor Mederos. Again, Singer probably more important to the slate than he is like high quality or super likely to succeed. How's that for fence sitting? Diamondbacks lineup is in. The other one is not. It's just still a good D-backs team. Even with the diminishment, trading some of their better players, there's still a lot of quality there. Got this one as well. Oh, and it's this game first. Thought it was the other way around. So we have the Padres lineup as well. They are still rolling with Luis Arias in the 2 spot. You got to love their stubbornness at least. 36, 26 across sites. He's slashing 291, 327, 399, a 106 WRC plus, down to just a 290 xWOBA. Doesn't draw any walks, doesn't hit the ball hard. That's going to happen. But obviously defies that because he finds success via BABIP. Hitting 291 this year is down a little bit for him, but a very consistent deliverer of base hits. Should be hitting first ahead of Fernando Tatis. Is not. Tatis checking in with a 12.54 in the home run model. He's been stuck on 17 since July. Excuse me. 24 stolen bases, though. Still getting on at a 370 clip overall, a 130 WRC plus. Pretty tremendous option from the top of the lineup. Manny Machado at 51 at 33 has 20 homers, 11 stolen bases, a monster season out of Manny. And then we get Ramon Laureano hitting 4th. Xander Bogaerts in the 5 spot. And then a lot of meh outside of maybe a sneaky catcher further down the Pods lineup. They come in a 407 implied total. Not a nothing spot against a pitcher like Robbie Ray. He's pitching to a 2.98 ERA, but has a 401 xFIP that really shows his flaws. 25.3% strikeout is a good number, but maybe not for a 12.7% swinging strike rate. It's also not necessarily a good number for a guy who was at 33.3 across just 7 starts last year, 27.4 in 32 starts prior to that, and has been in the 30s previously. It's also always come with a lot of walk, 9.3% walk this year, and a lot of premium contact. 44.2% hard hits, 90.8 miles an hour of exit velocity on a fly ball trajectory. 8.2% barrels is where the 2.83% home runs benefits a little bit. Last year on 9.2% barrels, but less hard hit, less exit velo, he gave up a 4.65% in the small sample. in a fair sample, 4.13 on better, weaker and more medium contact 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So Ray's always been vulnerable to the walk and the long ball. And when the long ball comes after the walks, that's where you run the score up against Robbie Ray. Overall this year, he has been succeeding. No arguing with it. 4 earned runs last time out. Going back to July 20th against the Blue Jays, 5 earned runs. Has hit a little bit of a dip in strikeout recently. In 3 of his last 5 starts, he struck out 4 or fewer. 4 strikeouts in the last game, 3 strikeouts in 2 games in late July against the Mets and the Blue Jays. Those are low strikeout teams, though. So are the Padres. In between those, he had a 6 strikeout day against the same Mets and then an 8 strikeout day where he kind of victimized the Pirates a little bit for some Ks. Hasn't been in double digits all year, notably. Several 9 strikeout games. Monster upside for Robbie Ray any given slate. Not a gigantic projection, but one of the bigger projections on this board, 97.95. He's inoffensively priced, going up against that super low strikeout Padres team again, though. Just 17.7%. As impacted by some of those guys. You do pick up some strikeout opportunity down there, a little bit on Ramon Laureano, but overall, it's a difficult matchup for Robbie Ray. He's very much on the board. I will have some, but I'm not enthusiastic about it. It's a pitcher that I like targeting when I can, and I probably will with a high-quality Padres lineup. Nestor at 65 at 76 on the FanDuel slate, coming in 4 starts with a 5.71 ERA, a 5.76 xFIP, 21.5% strikeouts, and way too many walks so far. In a more fair sample last year, 3.77 with a 4.16 xFIP, 22.8% strikeout against just 5.5% walk. It's a tidy but not spectacular strikeout and walk. Doesn't do swinging strikes, but allows a little bit of premium contact on a fly ball trajectory. Doesn't have great stuff, but can be effective keeping guys on their toes. Like I said way back at the beginning of the show, succeeds more with guile than anything else. But he's capable, and he's very cheap. 6,500 against a gettable Giants lineup that has a 23.4% strikeout rate overall. Strikes out at a 26.2% rate against left-handed pitching as an active roster this year. That's up here, by the way. Slashing just 229, 296, 358 as an active roster against lefties, a 130 ISO and 85 WRC plus. It's going to be probably 5 innings for Nestor, but I can see the path to success. 4 2/3 in each of his 2 comeback starts so far. Just 2 earned runs against the Diamondbacks at Arizona. Struck out 3 and walked 3. And then against this Giants team in San Francisco, his last outing, 6 hits allowed, 1 earned run, struck out 6. So again, maybe the Ks come through a little bit for Nestor, and he just has an okay day while allowing some runs for a very cheap price. I don't love the lack of quality start upside. I'm not saying he can't get through 6 here, but I think he's less than likely to. I think you're okay price-wise for that, especially on a weak pitching slate overall. So this isn't off the board, but it's less appealing on FanDuel, I think, than on DraftKings. I do think you can play some Giants, even with some of those lower-end numbers against Nestor. If you get the bad side of Nestor, there's a lot of upside for the opposing offense. Elliot Ramos had 4,000 at 2,900, 14 home runs. A little bit of a cool down period for Elliot, but a lot of power, a lot of ability, a lot of premium contact up there. Definitely an interesting option if he's hitting leadoff. If he ends up down in like this kind of territory, which hasn't happened a lot, then he gets a little less appealing. But I like him from the top spot. Casey Schmidt at 32 with 26, mix and match quality player. Does have a very interesting 350 xWOBA. The ability to get on base, set the table for the more interesting bats that follow. 109 WRC plus for him on the season. They have Matt Chapman went to the IL, by the way, if you're looking for Matt Chapman against the lefty. I was mentally as I was talking about that. Rafi Devers at 49. Gotten very, very cheap on DraftKings. Still 37 on FanDuel. Third and first base eligible over there now. Just first base on DraftKings. Monster premium contact, 23 home runs. Since joining the Giants, and it's been a minute now, 236, 341, 410, a 114 WRC plus, just a 174 ISO. Does have 8 home runs in a Giants uniform now. 31% strikeout, but 13.1% walk. In some ways, still kind of underperforming what you would expect from fully fledged Ravi Devers as far as that average. The on base is fine. The run creation's okay. A lot of strikeout. It's a diminishment for sure since he's been out there, but I don't think it's necessarily predictive of being just that player from now on. Willy Adames at 45 at 31, 19 home runs, up to a 99 WRC plus, 332 xWOB indicates we can still continue to expect a little bit more from Willy in an ongoing sense. He's corrected the numbers as far as the premium contact for the season, corrected the strikeout and walk rate. It's been a mostly lost season for Willy Adames, but it's not as tragic as it looked like it was going to be for a while there. Wilmer Flores at 34, at 26, mix and match quality player with a little bit of power upside, has always succeeded against left-handed pitching. Christian Koss, mix and match quality guy at 281, 326, 405 with 3 homers and 3 stolen bases, a 107 WRC plus. Been interesting over 135 plate appearances. He's very cheap in the heart of the lineup if he's in there at all. Young-Hoo Lee at 36 at 3,000, solid line drive hitter. 260, 324, 409 on the season. Creating around 7% better than average. Unspectacular, but another very low strikeout, medium walk rate type guy that's just constantly making contact. Tyler Fitz, Patty Bailey down the bottom. At best, mix and match quality guys. A 74 and a 65 WRC plus are difficult to recommend, even against Nestor Cortez. So I started with the Padres a few minutes ago, and then I rolled into Robbie Ray because I realized I had not talked about pitching yet. But again, those top 3, super appealing, but still stacked up in the wrong order. You're going to, obviously you want to take 2 of those 3 guys, and then Luis Ariz is a whatever. He's perfectly fine even at first base, considering how cheap he is and how much correlated scoring ability there is there. I don't love him at that position, and I think there's a lot of room for at least Ramon Laureano, Xander Bogaerts in the next 2 spots, and obviously that's the most obvious way to draw that stack. But I don't necessarily think that Freddie Freeman, I wish it was Freddie Freeman, is off the board at 25. That's the sneaky catcher. There's just enough ability in Freddie Freeman to consider him a decent option against Robbie Ray. He's low strikeout. He's capable of drawing the walk, but that's not really his game. It's more just putting bat on ball. He succeeds via BABIP. Not a ton of power there. But it's an interesting just little mixer at just 2,500. For usually when you see catchers that cheap, they're pretty inept. They're pretty lost, more Patty Bailey style. Furman this year in 252 chances, slashing 272, 321, 358. Again, nothing special as far as the slug percentage, a .086 ISO, just an 89 WRC plus and a substandard xWOB. But none of the actual indicators outside of his ability to hit for average while limiting strikeout and just putting bat on ball, finding some contact events. There's nothing else there. 91 WRC plus with similar numbers last year, but slash 271, 319, 366. There were fantasy contributions in there. Year before, 281, 321, 461. Actually created runs 8% better than average because he hit 9 home runs in 235 chances, had a 180 ISO, was a little bit more interesting for power that season. So the idea of going here instead of there, I think has some appeal. Only 1, 2, 3, and then obviously those 2 guys. That gets us at 42-20. And then let's say we don't want Xander. We'll take a higher end shortstop. And we go with Luis Ariz at first, 41-20. If you were to leave out one of the top guys and just kind of go a little oddball with it, you bring that all the way to 38-60, and you're still getting Ariz, Machado, Ramon Laureano, Bogey, and Furman. Obviously, you're leaving Fernando Tatis, their best player, out of the equation, although there's an argument to be made that this year Manny's their best player. I just think the presence of Freddie down there at that cheap price makes it a little bit more of a interesting playable spot and stretches the ability to stack this team. Jose Iglesias, not much of a bat, kind of miscast in the 6th spot there. Probably would have got Cronenworth in that spot, even against the lefty. Jake, down lineup at 39 at 26, 9 home runs, a mix and match quality player. Does get on at a 358 clip, does draw walks, and that might be what he does to to Robbie Ray here. 12.5% walk rate so far this year, had a 9.3 last year, had an 8.8 the year before. So maybe just as a wraparound option who we can rely on a little bit of on base, bring them back around to Fernando Tatis and those guys up top. And then Bryce Johnson in the bottom spot, slashing 313, 365, 375 over 54 plate appearances. Last year over 73 was not nearly as good. Over 48 the year before was also not as good. And over 19 the year before that, not as good. Maybe he's rounding into form. Maybe it's just a very small sample. He's just very cheap. Robbie Ray, as uncomfortable as that may be. Let's give Nestor the 2 spot. Pitching. Robbie Ray, Nestor Cortez, and then Padres bats over Giants bats. I like Strider, Greg. Going all the way back to the beginning. Yeah, I like that spot. I have faith. He's going to be popular, but the discount kind of takes care of some of the popularity. We talked about individual popularity. That White Sox team is not good. It wouldn't shock me if he had a bad day, given how bad he's been, given what some of the flaws have been. But that is one of the less likely teams in baseball to find that success against Spencer Strider. There's just infinite upside there. And it's a bad pitching slate overall. As I illustrated at the very beginning of the show, I assume you weren't here. But as shaky as Strider's been, he is no shakier in his current form than Robbie Ray is always. The other high-end pitcher of the day is at Coors Field. So among the 3 high-end pitchers of the day, I don't think there's any more danger in going to Strider than in going to either of these 2 guys. He will be more popular than those guys, though, which kind of screws up that math. But I just think with a bullet, Spencer Strider's still there. I don't think he's dead. Just hit some problems as he's come back, which was totally expected. Came back from a major injury. That one gets interesting. That one's flat ugly. I hate that FanDuel price, and I'm not wild about the DK one. So just given the shape of the pitching board, I think he's inarguably in play. Gav is also in play at 85, even though the Diamondbacks are good. They're drawing a 4.35 implied total at home out in the desert. Gav's only 85. He's 87 on the FanDuel slate. He's got a 3.38 ERA, but a 4.20 xFIP. He's got a 23.5% strikeout rate that comes on 11.8% swinging strikes, but he's got a 12.4% walk rate. Giving up a fair amount of premium contact, but only over the threshold in technically hard hits. It's 0.2 of a mile an hour under the exit velo threshold, slightly under the barrel rate threshold. Keeps the ball down to a manageable launch angle, though. 3.33% home runs is about where he ought to be. You can see the upside from the Stuff Plus number, though. When he's on, he is very good. Literally one of the best young pitchers in baseball when he's on. We've seen some good games. The Diamondbacks are not quite as good as they were through the season. 2 starts back, as I mentioned, he hit the Mets over 8 2/3. Didn't cash out a no-hitter, but still a dominant start. Outside of the fact that he walked 4. But you'll take that in an 8 2/3 inning day. Just 3 innings in his last start coming off that one. Maybe, and we see this from time to time, when a young pitcher gets stretched out to chase a no-hitter. That's why I hate that. Occasionally you see a little bit of a dip in the next start after that, just from a little bit of additional fatigue, more tired than he's used to, threw more pitches than he's used to. Just 3 innings in the next start, faced 16 hitters, gave up 4 earned runs, struck out 4, walked 1, but allowed 2 home runs. It's not definite that it was the lengthy start there, because he's run into a few of those kind of games throughout the season. But prior to that, 8 2/3, he had gone 6 against Minnesota, clean, 8 strikeouts, 4 hits, no runs. 6 innings of 2-run ball, 5 hits against Kansas City. Only struck out 3, but that's Kansas City. 7 innings against the Athletics, 1-run ball, 4 hits, 11 strikeouts. So he was on a little bit of a tear through July and the first start of August. Very playable. 78, 79 for Zach Gallen against the gettable Guardians team that the projected lineup, we don't have the confirmed yet that I see, comes in with a 22.3% strikeout rate overall. They're at just a 97 WRC plus for the full active roster over a whole bunch of plate appearances against right-handed pitching this season. They're not completely ineffectual as far as power output, a little bit of counting stats on the stolen bases. I don't think they're off the board. and that 4.24 implied total helps us get there as far as an offense. But Gallen's definitely on the board as a pitcher, as bad as he might be. 5.31 ERA this year, but a 4.16 xFIP. That's a much more tidy number. He's lost a lot via that high whip. 1.35 whip on 8.4% walks is part of the problem, but a lot of BABIP in there is part of the problem. It's been diminished for swinging strikes, been diminished overall for strikeout rate. 21.1% this year is down from 25.1 last year, 26 the year before, 26.9 the year before that. Comes with a lot of barrel, a lot of exit, a lot of hard hit, a lot of exit velo. Alarmingly over the thresholds in all three categories. 3.86% home runs, a little bit lucky. Should probably be in the fours somewhere. Creates downside for sure. But given those 26 and change percent strikeout rates from previous seasons, we know that guy's in here somewhere. He had a 10 strikeout day against the Giants back on July 1st. Follow that one up with a 9 strikeout day against the Padres. Very low strikeout team in the next one. Since then, he struck out no more than 6, but he got to 6 twice. Second start of the year against my Yankees, 6 2/3, all the way back on April 2nd. 13 strikeouts. No runs on 3 hits for the Yanks. That was his best start of the year. Capable guy, much, much better pitcher in years past, but you're getting a nice little discount at 78, at 79 to tackle a not great Guardians lineup. I know they're only like a game behind the Yankees for the wild card or whatever, but come on. Stephen Kwan up top for the Guards, 39, 29, 10 home runs, 13 steals. A very solid Stephen Kwan kind of a season. He's a dangerous hitter as far as his ability to get to first base, deliver a base hit. Less so in terms of power, but a 107 WRC plus, a consistent player. 39-29 is very affordable for Stephen Kwan. Daniel Schneeman's been knocking the ball around a little bit this year. 10 homers and 327 chances, just a 163 ISO, but it comes on 11.5% barrels. Solidly high strikeout rate, but also capable of drawing a walk. Gets on at a 313 clip against that 10.1% walk. Could be a little bit better. That 332 xWOB is a little positive indicator for you. He's also very, very cheap. I like him better where he fills 4 positions on FanDuel for 27. Just another outfielder on DraftKings, really. Jose Ramirez is a superstar by any measure. 25 homers, 35 steals, rolls out of bed every year and does that. 4,100, 3,000 for Kyle Manzardo, who's been rolling for power, is kind of interesting. He's up to 21 home runs, a 238 ISO against a very gettable pitcher who's been allowing nothing but premium contact. Kyle Manzardo's barrel rate, his hard hit ability, very interesting here. The ability to draw a walk, very interesting. The non-concerning strikeout rate at 25.6, it's high, but against that walk rate, it's perfectly fine, especially with the power output. Gilbert Arias could be super sneaky at 2,700 at shortstop, 26 on FanDuel across 3 positions. In 354 plate appearances, he's hit 9 home runs, has not been good in any individual categories. There's not one appealing mark from here to there. The 152 ISO doesn't really reflect the good of the player. 304 xWOBA is not a good indicator for future success. 86 WRC plus isn't great. What I'm intrigued by is that the 11.7% barrels, the 42.5% hard hits, the any given slate upside of a player who hits the ball very hard when he happens to make contact. He doesn't make a lot of contact, 31.9% strikeout rate against just 5.9% walks. Not great, but there is a little bit of batted ball event upside on a guy like Gabriel Arias. The exact same thing can be said about Bone Naylor in the next spot. All he does is find barrels along the way. He actually draws a little bit of a walk rate, too, 12.1% walk, but he only gets on at a 283 clip. So it kind of eradicates the idea of an actual 3 true outcomes hitter. But for a very cheap catcher at 26, he's in play if he's in the heart of the lineup. Brian Rocchio, mostly here for defense like Nick Allen, a nothing hitter at the plate. CJ Kayfus is way more interesting. 209, 277, 349 with 1 homer and 2 stolen bases so far, just a 76 WRC plus, but a higher end player than that as soon as he gets his feet on the ground. Ana Martinez in the 9 spot, if that's where he's hitting. 10 home runs, a mix and match quality guy in the outfield for a fair price. Diamondbacks against Gav. If you get the downside of Gav, there's a lot of upside for the D-backs, especially through that walk rate. They have a lot of guys in this lineup that can capitalize on it, and it's most of their key bats. So you get a couple of these guys to walk, and then Corbin Carroll delivers the big knock there. Love that kind of combination up at the top, and just wash, rinse, repeat the next time through the lineup. So visible downside for Gav, but one of the more playable starters on the slate as well. Perdomo continuing to hold down that leadoff spot now, a 388 on base ahead of Ketel Marte and Corbin Carroll. It's just a dynamite three-man. It's obvious it's the most straightforward way to stack the Diamondbacks is just grab those three and run. But you can average the pricing down a little bit by using some of the other guys in the lineup. Pavin Smith back in our lives in this lineup now. Perdomo creating runs 32% better than average, giving you bonus scoring via the stolen bases, tons of counting stats. We have a 162 WRC plus in play for Ketel Marte, 23 home runs on the board at 259 ISO, 415 xWOBA. We'll see what his mental state is like. Apparently, they were saying that they're going to shop him around in the offseason earlier today. Corbin Carroll at 61-41, just a star, 27 homers, 16 stolen bases, a 301 ISO is a monster number, 137 WRC plus. Lourdes Gurriel, tremendous bat speed, 4,500, 3,200, has 16 home runs, 10 stolen bases. Still just a 93 WRC plus. There's a lot of flaws if we start looking and peeling the onion a little bit there. Let's just focus on the low strikeout rate, the decent contact, the ability to succeed for a cheap price from the cleanup spot. Followed by Pavin Smith, who was having a nice little season, over 264 plate appearances. 8 home runs, a 185 ISO, 11.4% barrel, 45.7% hard hit. Maybe gets a little bit sneaky on this slate. Does have a lot of strikeout, but draws a ton of walks. Adrian Del Castillo, we've talked about the minor league success. We've talked about the pedigree. 2 home runs and 72 plate appearances, a 164 ISO so far. Making decent contact as far as the hard hit rate. Needs to find some barrel. Striking out a lot and not drawing some walks. Could get got by Gav, but an interesting catcher at 3,500. We've got a lot of cheap catching on this slate again today, though. Blaze is on a roll. 243, 331, 421 overall. And again, we don't actually believe in streaks. It's just looking backward at previous events. But it's nice to see a kid with a little bit of talent actually succeeding recently. What does it look like for the full month? For the month of August so far, 281, 379, 544. Creating runs 57% better than average. 4 home runs, 2 stolen bases, and a 263 ISO. Still striking out 30+%. Needs to get that in line a little bit or find some more additional walk. But it obviously hasn't hampered his ability to get on base. He's made fantastic contact. And this is kind of him playing up to form. Alec Thomas mix and match quality in the outfield. And James McCann maybe gives you a little bit from the catcher spot as far as hard hit balls. But they're few and far between. A decent 82 plate appearances. But we're not getting excited about the McCann option. I'd rather have Del Castillo even at a slightly higher price. Another tricky 4-corner spot. I think we need him enough to say that it's Gavin Williams, Zach Gallen, Diamondbacks bats, Guardians bats. But in reality, all 4 of those things are really, really close. And it might actually be better with the bats on top. That's how close that is. I just put the pitchers on top because I think we need both guys, and I want to create a bad perception for anybody. But again, these guys are coming from here on the board. It's just that those 2 options from there are not all that dissimilar than any of those options. That one is stupidly priced and in a problematic situation matchups-wise, in my opinion. That one, not a great price on FanDuel, nice price on DraftKings. A lot of strikeouts in the matchup for him. High danger spot. Flawed pitcher. These 3 guys, like I was just saying before and at the beginning of the show, they're all just in the same blender. Coors Field, the Coors Field of it, the Robbie Ray of it, and the post-injury so far performances of Spencer Strider all go into the same blender to knock down the reliability of those 3 otherwise spectacular pitchers. This version of Strider is the same as what Robbie Ray has always been. Yoshi Yamamoto is diminished by Coors Field, even though the Rockies are coming in at just a mid-4s total. So no safety here. For my money, it's still got to be Strider, especially with the FanDuel discount against the White Sox. Going to be popular, though. Both those guys are playable, but I prefer the bats, and I don't love the pricing on either guy on FanDuel. The 75 on Tyon, in a weird way, is kind of standing out. Dustin May at 69 on DraftKings is very, very appealing. The idea of going like May Singer on DraftKings, I don't think is nuts at all. 74.50 average, 14.9 total on the mound to get two of the higher end options on the day. And yeah, you're ignoring all three aces, but we just talked about the warts on all three of those aces. It wouldn't be like the go-to strategy, but I do think if you're building just one and you're throwing it into the giant lotto ticket events, it's not the worst approach in the world. It's going to be very different. High quality gets you to high quality differentiated lineup hitters as well. Nestor is also in that same conversation. By the same token, are you crazy if you put those two guys together? I'd say it's maybe a little higher risk and maybe a little lower reward considering the Nestor of it versus the Singer of it. But for the discount, I think that makes up a lot of that ground. Waka's in play against Texas from the same spot on the board as Gav Williams and Zach Gallen. All three of those guys look pretty similar. Lighter a little bit diminished by comparison, few points off. It's visible in the projection there. And then another gap down to these three who are a lot less playable. But again, Freeland, it wouldn't stun me if he had for 4,500 6 innings of 3 strikeout, 4 run type day, but maybe managed to get his way through for 6. For 4,500, there's maybe an angle where that works. 55 for Gomez, I think, is a little bit less appealing. And then I think the least usable is actually Medeiros in the third spot there. None of those guys is a realistic play. Every one of those guys likely to get torched. I say from there up are more realistic options from lighter up. Not a good pitching slate in any way. Let me punch out of here, though. We're getting toward the end of the show and time to update some lineups up on the website. You guys absolutely rock out there. Yeah, a lot of four corners for sure, Monty. It's just been ugly, man. This is one of the more like I don't really know kind of days, just as the way these things are colliding. And I think you can see it as I'm trying to rank it. Like I know how everything looks, but trying to actually say like, this is going to make the calls is tough today. Difficult lineup building day. Data trust the numbers, the math. Ride with that. But you guys rock. Let me go get the website updated with some of these confirmed lineups. Long show for a short slate as usual. Looks like just the Giants and then that game 2 of the Brewers-Cubs doubleheader left to confirm. So we'll have a lot of lineups to work with in just a couple minutes. Check out the website if you're unfamiliar, rotoscouts.com. Everything's under $1 a day. $5 weeklies now through the end of August with promo code 5ME. So check that out. Join the Discord, which is linked down there. And good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Share those results when you do at rotoscouts on Twitter or in the Discord. And we'll be back for more tomorrow. Oh, I forgot to mention. Did you guys see the NBA fans out there? Tuesdays, a typically gigantic slate night for the NBA. Their stupid new television deal is going to move Tuesday night West Coast games from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. That's going to be so much fun for those of us who have to sit here and wait on those starting lineups, let alone make late swaps for it. Can't wait. Should be a fun wrinkle this season. Let's end the show there, you guys. Go get them. See you tomorrow.